Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from in the Metaverse. Jesse Jameson here, also known as Whitticus, and we are the Metaverse Nomads, and this is our weekly live stream. We've got some special guests with us here, some friends of the channel, some that have been with us before, and some that are joining us for the first time. And we even, there's a good chance we'll have some folks pop in and out as we go along. We've got some news to talk about today across the Metaverse, and of course, we've got lots to catch up on with Star Atlas and COPA having taken place recently, which is the Guild Showcase. So with that, how you doing, Ray?
I'm doing okay. You know, any shorters out there on the markets? But overall, funds can be as dumb as retailer investors sometimes. So, but I'm doing good other than that.
Awesome. Fancy Head, how you doing, man?
Yeah, doing great. I love surprise guests, and we have plenty of them today. So yeah, it's going to be a good episode. Yes.
First of those guests, we've got Dark Swoop from MMA, a guild also within the ONI faction. In fact, we may even have some other guests here on the show that are also part of the ONI collective consortium, all of us within the ONI faction. How you doing, Dark Swoop?
I'm pretty good, man. It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks for having us both. Looking forward to see what we get stuck into. Feeling good.
Awesome. And we've also got with us from MMA Tilkin, who's one of their lead strategists that within Star Atlas on that side. So how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Very good. Trying to escape the heat outside, so lucky to be inside my office with the AC to keep me cool.
Yeah, we did have a bit of a heat wave. It's not a heat wave like what I'm used to, but it's definitely warm for over here in Europe. But
yeah, had some great thunderstorms afterwards here.
Indeed. Awesome. So we got a bit to cover, so we can go ahead and kick things off with some Metaverse news. What do we got, Fancy Hat?
So yeah, there's a couple stories this week about DAOs, and this one is about Merit Circle and YGG. Basically, there was a proposal to basically cancel YGG's investment, and yeah, it caused quite a bit of a stir. A couple articles were popping up, and there has been a resolution now. But yeah,
that is interesting. So we got a couple of the big boys in the gaming guild yard who are barking at each other, and I don't know too much about what is going on here. So it's my understanding. Yeah. Can you give us like a breakdown of what's happening with this?
So. I had read the documents, and this was circling around the Axie community and on Twitter, more so maybe in the Axie community. But basically, upon the beginning of their relationship, YGG was advisors, and it was more so financial than anything that would have to be concrete advice. So just to wrap that up, but now Merit Circle is spinning it on its head. Circle is spinning it on its head, saying that they didn't contribute in the ways that they needed them to be as an advisor. So the original amount that they were supposed to get back from their seed investment is not what they want to give to YGG, which was contractually the agreement. And then they put it up to a vote on a DAO. And then it was now YGG accepting, instead of $5 million, it was like $1.5 million. So they walked away, YGG, with a smaller amount than was originally agreed upon. And it was a big thing in the DAO Twitter space, because now we can have groups of people, no matter the contracts that was happening between these groups, just be dictated by what the majority of people want. So Merit Circle kind of handed it off to the community on what they thought what should happen. So how much
knowing
YGG gets.
knowing they would vote in their own best interest. So
Right.
that is fascinating, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening, because the whole idea of DAOs is they're trustless, self-governing contracts, unless you give a lot of authority, of course, to the masses that can vote. But it's an interesting thing. I think we're going to see a tightening up of the way that contracts are formed, because the whole idea here is like, if that was what the agreement was originally, there was no other contingencies put in place. You would think by the nature of the contract that YGG is entitled to whatever they were promised.
Yeah, you would think that. So the total they ended up walking away was 1,750,000, and it was around 5 million they were owed. But yeah, it went down to a vote. 100% said, yeah, let's give them less. And it's quite an interesting way they put it in the article.
Yikes.
It was they wanted to trim the fat with the proposal.
So they didn't even have a vote. They didn't have any leverage in the DAO at all themselves.
So I believe that they agreed to the counter proposal just so they could spare both parties from a costly, time-consuming legal process with uncertain outcomes. So the amount 1,750,000, that's still 10 times higher than what they originally put in.
Right.
That right there suggests that smart contracts are by definition not yet trustless.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Just in a wider scope of things, and we'll get to the COPA situation and YGG appearing. I have some opinions on that, but and I'll share some backstory of my workings with and talking with a friend of mine who now works or been working for YGG. It's ironic that everyone is considering these contracts or these DACs in the space of Star Atlas and outside of Star Atlas as the one-stop shop for trustless agreements and contracts, which was just a thing. It's not the case. It really isn't the case. So we really have to restructure our own individual thinking by educating ourselves and keeping up with what's going on in the space to know that it is just all natural on a non-organic product that makes you think it might be organic, but is it really? So we can get into it, but onwards.
And then makes it even funnier when you hear someone say, if we don't like the way this goes, we're going to sue you. We're going to take you to court over this.
Right. 10 steps back.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What do you think, Dark Sloop?
I mean, in a kind of morbid way, it's absolutely fascinating, right?
It is.
So when it first popped up, obviously everybody catches the eye, and you kind of sit there thinking, wow. My initial impression was, simply put, they have an agreement, a contract's a contract.
Yeah.
And with the way the DAO system works and the whole modeling stuff, the contract, I would have assumed, would have still been valid. And now we've entered this crazy world where you have a legally binding agreement, but the DAO doesn't like it, so we can change it, but then that's not a contract. So what happens? And they've reached this settlement, which I think is, in the grand scheme of like relations and development during the tough market time, that's a good thing, right?
Right.
But on the screen a second ago, it did mention saving a costly endeavor where you could get to the bottom of the exact legal situation. And there's so much doubt and speculation now. I kind of want to know where we stand with all this.
Yeah, because what if the opposite had happened? What if the value of this token and what exposure YGG had, what if that went to zero? Did they have any recourse to say, hey, we want something when there's now nothing? So, I mean, how can you do it on the other end of the contract? It's just bizarre.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting about this, and I agree with it as well, is that Merit Circle called YGG a top competitor rather than a partner. It does. I can see why this proposal was submitted originally.
And they're trying to trim the fat. Did they call YGG fat?
It's really crazy. At the time when YGG was doing its thing, it was many months before there was any competition, and then there was an onslaught of institutions announcing themselves as the either North American YGG or competing for that spot to be in competition with YGG on the lines of like a DAC of a DAC of DACs, right? A gaming guild centered around just Web3 NFT gaming, and it wasn't even Web3 as the power word then, or NFT gaming per se. I think it was probably NFT gaming, but it was more of like crypto gaming. Like everything just changed so fast, and then we had all these competitors. So yeah, of course they would say a competitor because that's how they always viewed anyone in the space who was, doing the same thing as they were doing. So
Indeed.
Yeah, and that story kind of links into our second story that hits a bit closer to home on Solana. So Solend is temporarily been disabled with withdrawals, and it's all down to one massive whale who has such a high percent of like leverage just by himself, and he hasn't been active. And if he gets liquidated, it could be like something very bad for the Solana system in general, just because of the amount of transaction power, I guess, it takes to.
So one individual wields the power to dictate what happens on an entire chain, entire layer one.
It doesn't stop there. Just this other guy who is also a whale, and they needed to do a vote in a DAO to make sure that Solent could intervene and cut off his leverage a bit or something like that. And the one guy on itself made the whole vote possible. Like, it didn't matter anymore if anybody else was voting, because just this one other whale said, let's go, let's do it.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, man. It's the way that these two topics are just intrinsically linked. It's like the power, the sheer power of these proposals that one individual can have by accumulating enough. It's scary.
Yeah.
This grand experiment. Sorry, I'm dumbfounded by like how this grand experiment could potentially turn into, through its iterations of failures and milestones reached, to become what we all want it to become for different industries and specific use cases. But it really needs to hit home with everyone in the space, no matter what network you're on, in a way that makes you think that this is not just what we've been operating in and thinking it has been. We are Star Atlas centered and focused, and this wouldn't be the greatest thing to happen. But I think everyone's their own individual. But I'm dollar cost averaging no matter what.
Yeah.
This could cause chaos, putting a strain on the Solana network. They list all the different ways they've tried to what they've done, how they tried to get through to him. But yeah, what they want to do is enact special emergency powers to allow Solend Labs to temporarily take over the whale's account, so the liquidation can become executed OTC.
Interesting. Anytime you have a technology that is this has this much influence and impact, I mean, you're going to find it stress test every which way. You're going to find all the weak spots and ways for it to evolve. And I mean, that's I'm in many ways, I'm glad we're seeing it now, considering how the market is versus when there's a lot more projects on it that are dependent upon stability.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that? The intervention, I mean, taking control temporarily. How do you feel?
Well, I'm torn. I like for agreements to go to work the way that they were intended. However, if that means that, if that means that it's going to completely ruin the infrastructure, then yeah, I think that there's some intervention that's needed, because there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot of projects, and there's a lot of innovation, and there's a lot dependent upon the infrastructure, and it really should not be something that is exposed to the power of one or the power of a few.
Yeah, I agree. Just jump in. I think as Solana is already more centralized than, I guess you would say, Ethereum, in many ways, then they can just turn it back on. So, like, there needs to be some type of person at the wheel for now, as it's still in beta, the whole network itself. And I don't have an issue with it, because a lot of what we're interested in, Star Atlas being the main one, lives on Solana. So just as we saw with the starting of the liquidation, avalanche that took place and potentially can continue on, into this, next week or so, depending on how the markets go. It's a game of whales at this point, and we're all here on the sidelines. So is there a plan B? Because we see games from the Terra Luna
5%.
system. Yeah, we see games from the Terra Luna system now hopping onto Polygon. There was like a horse racing game there, one of the most popular, and it's jumping over to Polygon. And then all of its users now need to either learn how to and get the RPC and start dealing with another network by force, or you have an option. You could just not partake. But it's just like if everyone's monies and dreams apparently of playing Star Atlas are on Solana, there needs to be a plan B in this worst case scenario that the network just goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Fat Man had quite an interesting take on this. While this is a crazy radical solution, and while it flies in the face of the DeFi ethos, it is probably one of the better options in terms of market impact and protocol health. Sadly, we don't worry about concentrated risks like a big whale account on the way up, only the way down.
That's well said. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Are we going to talk about Celsius? Because it started with Terra, maybe, and then Celsius is another centralized entity that talked a lot of DeFi, phrases and sentences with Alex at the helm there, with the CEO. I had some money on Celsius, so rest in peace for now. Maybe we can get a percentage of it back months later from now. Again, it's still to be continued. BlockFi.
What's the short story for knowing that, for people that aren't caught up on what happened there?
So these centralized institutions are vaults that once you give your crypto to, it's not yours anymore. So not your keys, not your crypto. If you didn't have it on a ledger, then it wasn't yours to begin with. So I knew this, and I was earning an interest on my crypto that I had locked up with them. And they had various amounts, different types of crypto, ETH, just almost top 10. You could just pull from, and you were able to earn an interest on it, and it would vary and fluctuate. So long story short, they were being degens more so than I guess you would as an individual. I can only speak for myself. I was less of a degen than Celsius was with my own funds. And then now they locked up funds and did things that was just otherworldly to earn more money to pay back all of the interest that they were promising for people who locked up their funds in the first place. So once the market went down, they had to make do and fulfill these positions and add money, like deploy, right? I said on my Twitter, the word of the day for last week was deployer, right? With the OOOOR, because it's just like, unless they're going to just default and just cease to exist and basically ruin everyone's holdings that they had in their accounts, it's all been leveraged and it'll get liquidated. So they paused and halted all transferring, withdrawals, but they left deposits open so people can pay off or pay back loans. So they weren't margin call themselves on their particular, whatever they were doing on the platform. And and there was another Chinese central exchange. I forget. I don't know if you guys remember the name, but they also just the other day paused their withdrawals, and for the same reason. And then 3 Hours Capital, that was another one, the largest hedge fund, the most successful darling child of the space, who you would think nothing could ever happen to them. Also, are apparently, there's no word of them on Twitter. There are hardly any announcements, but you have now 3 Hours Capital just being liquidated out, from last year till today. Just like back to back, everything is just sliding downhill, and it's like, what I took away from it was like, I just feel like this is the crypto version of the global financial crisis, right? And then too many big players were over leveraged, and now we are, screwed without any government bailouts. So we have to deal with all this pain and suffering and loss of money without getting it back, because it was always a risk to begin with. And this is the continual process of it. I don't know if anyone else sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but a lot of talk around town is that we can see further, downwards pressure from all the liquidations.
I mean, the erosion of trust is just unbelievable, and you can understand why. The tweet that circulated from Alex 48 or 72 hours before, nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. Everything's fine, guys. You wake up on Monday, and that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
During these
With-
tough times, it's just, I know that, and there's this undertone. A lot of people believe in the fact that crypto is tied to independence and thinking for yourself and like looking after your own capital. But that's a gut punch, and it's not the first time we've seen it. Even in the last month, that element of trust that you need just to deposit stuff into these, it's really getting thin,
Yeah.
really hard. And so anyone looking to create a product or a project that does this kind of thing in the future, you've got to now build up this trust with the consumer that's just getting smacked week by week, month by month.
Right.
And it'd be nice to see just a little bit of accountability from somebody. Just a tiny bit of honesty would go such a long. You'd probably, even if it went wrong, you'd probably be a hero just by showing a degree of integrity.
Yeah, you lost $10 billion. You're still a hero in the eyes of crypto Twitter.
At least, yeah, at least you said something honest. Yeah.
Did you see the stuff they pulled off yesterday with their AMA of Celsius?
Mm-mm.
So they
Yeah.
did like a 30-minute countdown for a video, and then Alex showed up, and it was like 14 seconds long, just saying like, "Hi guys, we'll be postponing every AMA for the time due."
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
And-
it was a ballsy move.
Yeah, and he looked sad, but that's the least of our problems now. And also, it was the Citibank, one of the largest banking institutions. They now are in contact with to help in this process of maybe helping people get their funds back. Behind the doors, we don't know exactly, but yeah, it's funny how they have actually had merchandise that had "Don't trust the banks" or "They're not your friend" or of some sort. It was so funny. The
Unbank
memes,
yourself. Unbank
Unbank
yourself. That's
yourself.
a tag.
right? And then and one of the leading degenerative, like centralized lending
God.
platforms in the space are now relying on banks for their experience in the space of doing the same thing that they were doing in the crypto space. Funny stuff. Crazy.
The great bailout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else we got, Fancy?
So those were the two main stories for Metaverse News. What did you all think of COPA?
Well, it started out messy, but then it seemed to smooth out after a while. It's almost like the stream woke up and said, "Hey, let's give these guys more bandwidth here," because it as it got closer or more towards the center and even towards the end, it seemed to make the stream go a lot smoother. And it was challenging for us with the live stream end of it, just with some of the technical difficulties. But overall, I think it was kind of cool for all the guilds to kind of show up and share their wares, and we learned a little bit about some of the guilds, even some of the lesser known ones that participated there. And of course, big shout out to the winners of that with Coexist. And they've and of course they've been on the show, and Lumina may actually have some time to join us here today. But so good on them for taking home that first prize.
Yeah, of course, quite impressive stuff.
Yeah, 7 hours long though. Definitely.
Well, I think it's one of those things like we're kind of lucky to get to go through all the motions like now. So, and hopefully when everything explodes in the future, we're in a better place to pivot it, right? Like, hopefully we have perfect bandwidth from the start next time. But yeah, no, I mean, the fact that it's even an event is just fascinating and really cool to me. You know, how many communities this early on into something do you get something of this scale, right?
For
I
sure.
think it's done a really good job of like trying to get it up off the floor and doing it. It's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
I did enjoy the fact that it's such a great milestone since where we started, all being involved in the community, whether you were in the front lines of the attention or in the back, just building and helping the community the best way you could. But yeah, Discord I don't think was the best route to take as far as streaming. Should have been YouTube and or Twitter. You could do multiple. StreamYard is what we use here, and by all means, in the future of any streaming events, the Nomads here, we don't mind offering a helping hand or even hosting, as we do this weekly for almost a year now for 3+ hours. So we can, we don't mind helping in any way possible to just further the growth of the community in this type of way. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and we're simultaneously streaming to 6 channels across 3 platforms right now. So it's something that can definitely be done with ease.
For sure.
Yeah, technology is great on that part right now.
Indeed.
Yeah, so there was a lot of great presentations, and if you want to read ours, we do have it in our Discord at the moment in the About Us MPN channel. You can read it there and yeah, see what we're about.
Yep. And actually that link, gorome.io, doesn't go straight to our Discord anymore because we want to be a little bit more informative. So it actually goes to romeguild.com, where we actually share a little bit about Rome before you have the option to click the button that takes you to join our Discord. So that's something that's a little bit new on our front, is to just give you a little bit of a landing page to share a bit of information before taking you directly to our Discord. So yeah.
Well done, Jess, on that for sure. It looks great.
And our law is also included at the bottom if you do want to get into any of this. Shout out to Winston.
Yo, Winston's the man.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, that I love it. That's some seriously good work.
Yeah, it would have been fun to present it. I'm not sure how we would have got all of that in 15 minutes. All the other styles of presentation
Speed reading,
make a lot more sense given the time. But yeah.
Well, are we going to get into COPA more so than what we are now? Because I would like to talk about certain things that happened along the way, the YGG thing, and then overall just bullet points on DAX. And my impression, because we knew, I guess I'll just get into it now. So we have many DAX, official DAX, that have a token associated and or an NFT. And with everything we just finished talking about, and with what DAX are meant to be, and always were talked about as being just a voting mechanism. Like these tokens, whether they were community-based tokens or tradable ones on the market, either way, you could utilize them in a way for voting on proposals, on Snapshot, right? You can just YouTube how to do all this and create a DAC with Snapshot and then and having a wallet with multi-sig, so that any funds that are raised and donated or given to via taxes could all be in one wallet, and then there needs to be multiple people who signs off, so those funds can be sent out of that wallet and used for either buying assets in Star Atlas or buying Pulse for governing purposes, if we're talking about Star Atlas. So now we have a bunch of guilds, just as we have many tokens in the crypto space. And at what point do we hit max saturation? If we're going to be out here, everyone's trying to sell or give an NFT, everyone's trying to have or give a token for a particular purpose. It's just like, who's going to be where's the next innovation taking place in this space with if this is the foundation? It's just like, is this it? Like, where do we go from here? And is everyone going to do the same thing? And is it necessary that everyone does the same thing at the same time for the same periods of time? Like, these are things that I was just thinking about.
Well, I thought it was great that people showed up with a lot of creativity. But one of the things that kind of I kept asking myself was like, how is anyone suggesting that they're going to do all of this when they don't understand the lay of the land, how the DAX is going to work, what the capabilities are, and the functionality that will be afforded to them to make those things happen? And will Star Atlas even be aligned with your choices about suggesting you want to bring those things to their metaverse and the environment? So, but I guess we could just call it theory crafting and wishful thinking for now, and just expressing creativity. But it just seemed a little premature for some of the ideas that were being expressed.
Yeah, it's something that we're pretty conscious of as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got a token out there, right? And you don't want to be making promises that you can't deliver on.
Exactly.
Obviously, it's a conscientious choice on our part not to overcommit to stuff, because we want to be able to always deliver what we set out to, right? It's that balance of being aspirational or trying to keep it safe and be able to actually deliver on what you promise on. I have a lot of time for all the fantastic ideas going out there.
Right.
I just hope that maybe for the sake of the people delivering it, what kind of time frame do you guys think we're working on to be able to actually make an informed decision about if you're going to be able to do that?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? Because it just feels far away. And if you're setting out your stall this early, you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Right.
The other thing that I found a little unusual about COPA, I guess if I was in the seat, always playing armchair quarterback, if I was in the seat of marketing for Star Atlas, I would have put some marketing dollars behind this, so it wasn't just a bunch of guilds talking to each other. I would have used this as an event to draw in a lot of fresh eyes so that they could see the momentum and the excitement of guilds that are been around with this project and are excited to bring a lot of energy to it. So that way it could have exposed a lot of new blood, so people could have had a chance to kind of say, hey, that's a guild that resonates with me. But it just seemed more like it was just the community itself.
Yeah.
And
Perhaps that's the plan for next time. This could have been just a show rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just guess they learned a lot from doing the very first COPA presentation ever. So,
yeah, credit to where it's due. For the most part, if it was the first trial of it, yeah, like it was great, and it definitely needed for anyone now coming into this next phase of growth or engagement that the team is actually, because we don't know what the team is actually doing, where the marketing is going to come from, how hard they're going to hit with the marketing to achieve those goals, like Wagner said, of 500,000 Discord users by the end of the year, just a couple of months ago, and we're almost at 200,000 now, so it's not that far fetched of a goal to achieve with just a little bit money coming out of or into marketing. But I brought this up as a point because I see this whole I lived through the phase of the scholarship boom and the DAC boom and Dark Soup as well. We were in the Axie Infinity community before YGG was even a thing, before they had their founders token, before they were even on the map, right? They were it was just a Gabby as an individual in the community of the Discord for Axie Infinity. So I've seen this whole growth phase of scholarships and then DAX being utilized with YGG, trailblazing that, but making it a little bit more complicated in the sense of a DAC with DAX, a DAC within DAX for all the different games. So I feel like I was reliving watching this presentation of within now the Star Atlas Solana ecosystem, the same thing where everyone is trying to become this DAC that has the community's, they become a community favorite of sorts, and they have the most complex and detailed white paper to then attract or to make clear what their goal is and why they're creating a token. And it's almost like you're creating a project with a token, right? It's literally what it is, to then now sell yourself in a way that appeals to, but more or less just the people in the space. When you have a presentation like we have with COPA, and you're talking about your white paper and everything that involves crypto with the lingo and all these, for the layman person in TradFi gaming, they're looking inside like this is gonna fall apart. It's just like a back-to-back, accelerated growth of just like trying to sell something. Maybe I can't speak for everyone watching from a TradFi perspective, but it needs to be pretty cut and dry if we're going to try to bring on hundreds of thousands of people. The foundation, and again, I'm not completely on one side here, and I could talk about how important it is for all this to be happening, because there needs to be that foundation for when the masses come, then they disseminate and you get acclimated to the space, and now there's places for people to go if they want, or to still create and build something of their own. So I'm just seeing it as a newbie coming in, but I'm also appreciating what it is and for how long we've been in the space for where we're at now. So yeah, I just feel like this is another boom in the Solana Star Atlas bubble of the bigger crypto Web3 gaming bubble of what happened with Axie, and it could go either way. But a lot of people, just like companies, we know the statistics of, a lot will fail over time. A lot will be merged with others, and we see that happening with certain partnerships or projects that we knew of before, or guilds that don't exist any longer. So it's just a grand experiment still, and power to everyone out there continuing to build, and we support it all.
Yeah, well said.
Thanks.
Yeah. So bringing it to Siggy's comment on Scream saying that the Sandbox event could have been like the big marketing push they were doing for COPA, but you didn't really have to engage with the Star Atlas Metaverse to do the Sandbox event. You went into their character creation. You just got like a couple pictures that you recreated. It's not like participation in Cream or so. Yeah.
And another, I just have to jump in here because Sandbox is great, right? Last year NFT NYC, I was there. I saw Sebastian present, and I'm going this week. I flew in from Puerto Rico to hit up the event again. And for what it's worth, they don't have daily active users nowhere compared to Star Atlas, right? As far as like people who are engaged, and if we start playing this this mini game we're having with Scream, like compared to other games during the Star Atlas era of games where you want to have to compare and contrast them with, they don't have as many. They don't have a lot of daily active. I saw a tweet the other day where it's just like they hardly have any daily active users, right? So for them to be valued at like 10 billion plus, it's not, nothing is really making that much sense from a traditional way of looking at things when it comes to this, how companies are valued or any of these games are, and then comparing with the daily active users. So it's kind of interesting that if there was more money put towards the marketing of that collaboration with Sandbox, I think they're just riding the wave of the popularity of Sandbox and what it means within the ecosystem. Like everyone knows Sandbox. Like almost everyone should, if they've been around it, and it might be one of those names you see and know of before Star Atlas. So maybe that would I could make sense in my own head. But yeah, go ahead, John.
I have a question about Sandbox, and my knowledge of what they actually offer in terms of value is quite limited, other than the news that that we know that Snoop Dogg set up camp there, and he's he's actually done some partnership stuff with them there. But what would you say is the real value add and the difference between them and what Decentraland has to offer? Because we do know that they're the low-hanging fruit when people think of metaverse projects. In fact, they were the first two tokens to get a big bump after Zuckerberg, announced Facebook's rebranding to Meta. And so basically people ran out like, oh, what's a metaverse, token? What's a metaverse project that I should probably be involved in right now? So those seem to be the lowest hanging fruit for a lot of people. But what distinguishes them from each other? And I guess, because what I think of is projects like that, they have to find a window where they can be the front runner for mass adoption, and that's what gives them long legs to be able to continue. Otherwise, they fade into the oblivion. They become a Palm Pilot, or a BlackBerry. So it's like, what is the difference in your minds between those two projects, and like who do they cater to market wise?
Well, I gotta admit, I'm not really into that with either of the two projects, so I couldn't add anything on that.
What comes to mind for me is that, like, at least right now, and I've kind of wandered through Decentraland, and it is pretty cool in the sense that people are just creating art galleries and strange structures and weird things like that. So you just go around and observe stuff. Some places, some brands will have videos playing, or you can go and watch a presentation. But that's all that I see being used for right now. It could be used for a lot more. Who knows? And then it's my understanding with Sandbox, you can actually also create mini games and things like that within the Sandbox environment. But beyond that, I really don't know. And so, I mean, how many of them can there be that can really survive, in long term? I think it's going to be, we're going to find a couple winners, and the rest will just kind of disappear.
Yeah, and what happens when a game with a social hub comes on the scene that can do everything that you can do in Sandbox or Decentraland? I guess it's all about interoperability. Like if you have an NFT that can only be used in one place, you'll go to that place.
Yeah, I think for me it comes down to how much the current community across the space and all the new adopters in the next few years, how much do they value accessibility, right?
Right.
Well, I think the way you've described them is pretty, I feel kind of similar in that way. But the trade-off to that kind of simple exposure of walking and seeing art and things like that is it's simple, but it's accessible. And what kind of lens are we looking at this from? Because I think there's a little bit more depth, in my opinion, to Sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's that whole balance of when you speak to people who are completely new to the space, what's too much and what's super accessible and fun and friendly.
Right.
You mentioned also the meta boom, right? Of completely new adopters that are just kind of coming for that experience and they don't know what it is. But if it's really simple and easy and kind of niche and cool to just sort of walk around and experience it, that could be everything. The accessibility to people is like that baby's first step into it, right?
Yeah.
Everything in every walk of life needs something like that, right?
Yeah.
Your first exposure to something.
In comparison, I don't even know if they have what their on-chain strategy or how much they'll develop in that direction. But Roblox is crushing it now in terms of people under the age of 16. the bulk of their users are under the age of 13. So it is like now the online metaverse community where youth of the world are actually digging into it. And if we look back at the history of how, Apple was creative in putting Macs in schools and computers and getting people to really adopt that at an early age, it's pretty brilliant on Roblox part and where they might be able to go with that in the future.
Didn't they have some crypto adoption tied to the game as well?
That I don't know. No.
I think
But
I
it seems-
saw
it seems
something, but
open.
it seems like it's something like 2 months ago that I found something where Roblox potentially had some crypto influence or tied into the game. I can't really remember.
Yeah, it seems primed for it.
So, yeah, we have a guest who just arrived due to a time difference mistake, I mean. But welcome, Lumina.
Lumina, what's happening, man?
Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware that because I checked the 2 p.m. Eastern time was supposed to be 9 p.m. here, but somehow we got confused and something happened. But nevertheless, here we are. How are you guys?
Doing well,
great.
man.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Congrats,
To you and
Yeah.
all of Coexist.
Thanks.
Place
Very well
thanks.
done.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a really fantastic night. We were really honored and we were really stoked. I mean, we had a blast after the event, and I remember my brother was in the other apartment. He shouted so loud that he woke up the kids. So yeah, it was something.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, I did feel that, and I wrote it in the live stream chat of our YouTube coverage of the event when they were announcing the third place. I was like, Coexist got first place, and,
Really?
and then, sure enough, when I did have a little shout out myself, I'm just like, oh, let's go! I was so excited for you guys because I was just like, of course, it happens. How it all falls into place is just amazing to me. So congrats again to you and the whole Turkish community, right? The whole country of Turkey, actually, because as far as I know, this is the only Turkish Star Atlas oriented, NFT gaming guild out there, or in the country. So, it's only a matter of time. You guys are gonna
Yeah.
keep killing it, and yeah.
Not to mention,
really
we got
have-
a lot of ONI representation here on between this
Alright.
Yeah.
3 different guilds.
Yeah, I was
represented.
gonna say I mean Fancy just said something to me about the ONI Consortium, so I didn't get the details, but and I just arrived to the stream, so I'm really sorry. I don't know who these
That's
people are.
Yeah, we haven't had an opportunity to really
Yeah.
announce it live, but with regards to ONI Consortium, but it's something that we wanted to put in place a while back, and we've been slowly inviting people to it that we know are dedicated to the ONI faction, because as we know, especially now that we know how Scream is laid out, and it's very much influenced by Stellaris, which I've been diving into quite a bit lately, and as there's going to be contention for territories between factions, now's the time for factions to find some semblance of coming together to collaborate on how we're going to, protect our faction as a whole, even aside from our own individual interests. So that's the reason for bringing the ONI Consortium together. And also, as you mentioned, Lumina with Coexist, that you're not familiar with the other 2 gentlemen here, but Dark Swoop and Tilkin are from MMA, so who is
Yes.
also in an ONI guild. So.
Yeah.
Good
I know
evening.
the
Good
guild,
evening.
man. Hey guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
love
I gotta say, the support that we got was really amazing. Even like during the presentation and especially after the presentation. And I mean, these guys, Ray, Viticus, and Fancy, they know Rome has a special place in my heart. So what they did was great. And then I did. I tried to be, as supported as we can be with Rome. And I gotta say, and this is definitely coming from bottom of my heart. After reading the Rome's submission, I was really amazed at why they didn't pick you guys. But having sense that maybe because the lore, I read it the entirety, loved it.
It's fantastic.
It's great, and I don't know if you have a chance to catch it, but we are also planning to release an actual book about the story of Coexist in Star Atlas. There's a great storyteller in our guild. He actually had two bestsellers books in Turkey. So we are really firm on that one. And months ago, we had an idea about releasing a comic book just like Star Atlas, but they did it. So that kind of, you kind of put it in the cupboard right now. There you go. Yeah. So which I'm really looking forward to. And by the way, I mentioned this in the Twitter Spaces. I don't know if everybody got it, but when Wagner dropped all the alpha, he also mentioned something like, when we're gonna play the showroom, there will be little Easter eggs that we'll be able to find these NFTs in the showroom. Not a lot of people realized it, but he said it during the COPA event. So yeah, that's something that we're definitely looking forward to.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely a cool little thing they've done there. And
So
I'm
who's
excited to see
going
what
to
they've done
call
with
off
it.
this hunt?
I love that they're doing that. I actually mentioned that probably a few months back on the show as to where the project is now. The thing I would love to see them doing from a marketing perspective is releasing a lot of lore. And even to take that a step further, I'm glad they're doing a book, but I would have loved to have seen, in addition to that, like small shorts of like anime.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. That'd
Yeah, it would be
really
cool as
amazing.
well.
Yeah,
so-
that is cool. League of Legends does that, and they've expanded
Right.
to a point with their own
Yep,
studio now. And yeah, amazing quality.
That's cool. And you know who else is doing that? Another project that I know that Bonafide, who's not here with us, that he and I follow, is Tom Bilyeu and his impact theory. They're actually building it, and they want to be the kind of the new Disney, and so they're doing gearing up to create not only metaverse worlds, but to do a lot of short stories and anime type videos around that sort of thing. So it's interesting. There's a lot of projects that are starting to head in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really great move because with the special like games like you guys played World of Warcraft. I mean, lore is really important, and then for the just not just for the game, but for the sustainability of the game too. I mean, that if you get
Exactly.
people hooked into that world of fantasy world, to just keep coming with the story, and then one of the things that, and as we talked about it before, there's a reason why a lot of these play to earn games, I mean, maybe 99% of them are not gonna be here in a year or two, and that's a fact. But when you come up with these type of extra features and lore and storylines and the comic book, and it definitely adds a lot to the value of the project for sure.
What do you guys think of the art style?
I like it. I do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I like it too.
I
Take your
like
thoughts
how
on
they
it.
how
Weird.
they put like a tufa on the background.
Right.
It's
Oh yeah,
kind
I
of
didn't pay
reminds-
attention
yeah.
to that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
See, almost blends in.
yeah,
Right.
true.
And what do we think those objects are? Is that debris? Is that stuff they're carrying with them? Are they functional, or are they something that's
Food.
been tossed
Food, fuel, repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The adventures. It looks like where they found the diamond, right? It's kind of the same setup, same environment. I think.
Yeah.
Not to say that it is, but similar to that. I like the art style.
Yeah, definitely. So now that we have the winner of COPA here, how about we pivot back to the recap?
Yeah.
All
let's do
right.
it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's
Good.
do it.
What happened at COPA? If you didn't see it, you can get a recap here. Tell your friends, join in. I'm making a tweet right now to share about us being live. So if you're also on Twitter and you can multitask, give it a retweet.
Of course, the stuff that was most exciting to me overall about COPA was the fact that we rediscovered again that we're about 4 to 6 weeks out. 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, where do we want to start? We want to start with alpha. We want to start just kind of just overall views. Where are we with this? Where do you want to go with it, Fancy?
Let's hear from Lumina, like what it was like to be behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Any impressions?
Yeah, well, I mean, and here's the thing. I think what they did was, well, first of all, an event that lasted on Discord for 7-8 hours. That's I mean, I give kudos to Ashes and Santi and Dominic, all the rest of the people, and that was because, and here's the thing, yes, maybe other companies can do it too easily, but that was the first for them. To some extent, I think they handled it really great, but there were some issues with the audio, and that's also limitations of Discord. And if I were them, I would have picked the probably different platform, but that wouldn't be okay. I'm sorry. All right. Sorry, my bad.
No
My
problem.
brother's showing something like that. So yeah, they had some sound issues, and that was because of the fact that Discord had we had to do restreams and whatnot. So one of the things that kind of put me sort of in a bad spot was because their system, where all these guilds, they come up, and then the people who are supposed to present, they go back down to this uh, voice channel called tech channel, and then they take you through your presentation, make sure everything works, sound and whatever. But uh, when we start to see some of the presentations, people had some voice related issues, and then when it was my turn, I was being told that I shouldn't use, if I had a video, I shouldn't use any sound whatsoever. But the weird thing was, yes, we had the Unreal Engine 5 game video, but they also told me that you will be able to show the video, but because it's going to be just the visuals, you have to talk over the video. So that was something that I wasn't really prepared.
Right.
So in 15 minutes, I came up with something, and I don't even know right now what I talked about. But and overall, I think it was really great. I had some really good discussions after the presentation. Having said that, we were the only guild who did not really finish their presentation in 10 minutes because of that last minute thing. It just put me off guard already. And so I kind of spent more time than I should have on other topics. But they had I had some other views of. The whole breathing thing was kind of a really interesting thing. Obviously, some people enjoyed it, some people didn't, but for them being the very first COPA and doing this on Discord with, I don't know, there were a lot of people on that day, like really so many. And I don't know what was the Twitch stream user count, but yes, there were things that they could have handled much better. And I think the tech team is now aware of it. And I think after our presentation, there was a rule about no videos whatsoever. Some of the submissions where I was a little bit disappointed because like the Chimera Guild, they like their presentation was great, but sending a pre-recorded video, I guess Star Atlas didn't really give any kind of criteria, so that was kind of different.
Yeah, from the creator standpoint, that was a big
Yeah.
hassle. We wouldn't have picked the format we would have if we was trying to get top prizes, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of the people who were, like we personally right now, we did not release any token. Yes, we have an economic model that we are working on, but that's something in a work in progress. And it's going, even if we have an economic model right now, we don't even know the outcome of Scream. We don't even know that this game is going to come out. So many things will change, along the way. And that's sort of our approach with Star Atlas and Coexist. And when the other guilds they talked about their token and economic model, and I think they kind of that's one of the things that kind of set us apart was we tried so hard to answer this question: how can we take Star Atlas to the Turkish community and make sure that they understand the game and what's going to happen in the future? And we tried to reach out in so many occasions by creating different kind of projects. The gears that we created, the NFT and the women empowerment, all that. So we didn't really span a lot of the economic model. And I think a lot of the people thought that the economic model part would be the sort of, the big area of the thing, but it wasn't. And it turned out to be that wasn't the case, at least because I really enjoyed Dark Matter's presentation, and also Heimdall's presentation. I mean, and I think the main reason why I enjoyed it because both of those guilds are coming from a gaming background. Especially
Right.
Dark Matter, it's for them the game. It's game first, and for us, we have the same mentality too. And I know you guys are coming from a big gaming background too. And I personally, for this space to be really good, they have to think about gamers first, and then the investors. I understand, yes, investors are important. This is crypto and whatnot, but first of all, you have to have a game that people can come back to, even if few months pass. I mean, there is a reason why World of Warcraft. I mean, you can bash the expansions and whatnot, but when people cannot find an MMORPG to play, they always go back to Warcraft. There is one analogy that I love, and I say it all the time in Coexist back in the day too. People don't quit World of Warcraft; they just give a break.
That's true.
So
Hello, can relate.
Yeah. So if you can create that kind of a platform and a project, then you're going to be successful. So hopefully startups will be like that. Yes, with the COPA, like I said, we really enjoyed it. But when they said Club was the third and Dark Matter was second, I was still I'm being completely honest with you. I wasn't convinced that we're going to win it because there were Heimdall. I really enjoyed Heimdall's and avian industry, and but the time when Wagner and Santi said, "Hey, let's see who has the best support in the in the chat and whatnot." When he asked that question, then I said, "Okay, I think we're gonna take the prize."
Yeah.
So and then when he is, and that was kind of we were kind of in a limbo too because he announced us, and I didn't know if I had to say something, and I didn't because it was his floor, his time, so I didn't want to interrupt anything. But I think the next couple will be much better than this one, even though this was really great too, and we really enjoyed it. Not because of the reason that we won it. I mean, I said it before. The result was, I mean, yes, there were some prizes and whatnot, but for us, because we are investors, we are gamers first and then investors. I invested so much in Star Atlas. We love the project. Our goal was, we really hope that this game and the awareness of this game also reached out to the other people. I mean, the co-founder of Twitch was there. I gotta say, there's one thing that I did not like, and that was even though it was a joke, but the YGG's little joke about guilds and if you want to leave your guild, go ahead. Yes, it's a joke, but I personally thought that it didn't fit to the whole thing. I mean, you guys might have a different view on that too. But I mean,
it's a sore spot, I think, even just from the origins of how they've gotten some special favors and unique partnership treatment from Star Atlas as a whole. So
but other than that, on the community aspect and how you are perceived in the space of the not the coexist, but of the ecosystem and the community of Star Atlas, there's some detachment there. There's like a YGG is a guild of guilds, and their priorities are spread out. A lot of people might have mentioned Rome in the same way of they have many games they invest and play. But don't you have a life outside of gaming, and that doesn't take up time and money? So I never really grasped that aspect, other than YGG specifically out there promoting themselves as a guild of guilds. So this is a little backstory of my experience with YGG in the inside, if I may say. But Phil, shout out to Phil. He's the operations of business for YGG, and he has been for over a year now, since the last NFT NYC. I sat down with him in person and I ate dinner with him. Great guy from the Axie Infinity ecosystem, and that's where a lot of the team of YGG was pulled from. The talent, they sourced a lot of talent, and they pulled from the Axie community. Excuse me. So we had a lot of talk about YGG and us as Rome, and seeing where we can essentially help each other out. Not so much a partnership or an alliance for Star Atlas, but how can we also help and engage the broader community to get more people involved within YGG, but also from outside traditional gamers to get them more involved in Star Atlas specific. specifically, because I have a founder's coin since day one. Before YGG, I mentioned earlier in the show, they even existed. There was a lot of support there from my end, and also Axie community members and the team themselves. So YGG established themselves as we've invested in Star Atlas and Salvatore, right? His name was. I had a lot of communication and I agree with you, Lumina, that it didn't make YGG look any better in the space as is, with all the opinions and controversies and conspiracies. Pick one, right? YGG is probably in there somewhere. And although they trailblazed this model of DAC and DAX within DAX and gaming, and they've helped onboard a lot of people also into Star Atlas, because they're the first to go to do a partnership with a major, maybe traditional, or they're looked at as a model to replicate in some ways, because there's a lot to learn, but then there's a lot of things that they that people can learn from with what not to do, right, in the space. If you're just joining in. So I wasn't impressed. I thought there's a big disconnect between the existing Star Atlas community with YGG. I didn't see them in-house as much as Coexist was. The unity within the YGG's guilds of guilds are not as strong as the individual guilds we saw at COPA. Clearly, you can see people supporting and talking, and then people outside of the COPA just doing things as we are with Rome and MMA. So I didn't think it made them look any better, especially with what they're going through. And I think that there's not as of a strong community there for them to have been a person or a group to come on to COPA to give advice on community building, because you're one person in a big melting pot of guilds, and each community and its game is different than the next. So generally, you can give tips and tricks of what makes a strong community, and how do you market and act to then bring on more people, or what can you be creative with or innovative with to then attract more people and to keep them feeling like there's a family and a close-knit community within that particular game. But I don't know if anyone else knows, but if you were new to seeing and hearing YGG, you thought, oh, I could join their Discord and then I'll be a family member. But they see everyone as an individual who just, if you want, join the game, and there might be mods there who help guide you into a specific area. But there's a lot going on in that Discord, and it's not as organized as one might think. So again, shout out to YGG. I think they're great. They've done great things, but at some point, you fall out of favor depending on how the ship is driven, right, and what's going on. And as far as I'm concerned, unorganized and not as much structure as one might think, as far as what the community side of it is. Financially and monetarily, I'd say they're doing great, right? They make partnerships. You can see one every day almost being promoted. But as far as actual community gamers are concerned, I'm not so convinced that it's as strong as a lot of other guilds that we know of that were born out of Star Atlas being there for us. YGG was not into Star Atlas as early as we were, and a lot of other guilds, right? You Coexist, and even I think MMA, but maybe at the same time. But a lot of people look at YGG as, oh, what they're investing in, I'm going to invest in too, right? As far as what their portfolio looks like. But there's a big distinction between a community that's going to actually play the game with rented assets. So and that's another question I had. How many of the players who are actual gamers are playing as a scholar just to make money? And ultimately be an extractor, which necessarily is not the way anymore, right? I'm not calling them mercenaries. It's like they're just pillage the game and its ecosystem and then just extract everything. But are they devoted Star Atlas, players that are gonna not just care about the money per se, because they're gonna be playing with rented assets. And I can't speak for everyone. Again, I'm not talking in absolutes. Majority of people who are YGG community are scholars. There's a lot of assets being bought to be rented out. So as far as other guilds that I'm concerned with, there was some in the COPA event that promoted themselves as that. We're going to buy assets and we're going to have scholars. They even use the word scholar. And it's just like, to each their own. But do we want scholars or we want gamers? Gamers who can invest some of their own, have a stake in it themselves. Go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
Well, so it's a different culture. I mean, even if you look at like Olympic sports, there's games where people compete individually, like a lot of the scholar-based gameplay, and then there's collaborative team efforts. And I think that it's going to take a different approach in a different guild format and a different culture to approach a virtual economy in a metaverse type world that is an MMO like Star Atlas is shaping up to be. It's going to take a very different culture than what I think YGG is prepared to bring to Star Atlas.
It's interesting, you know. Fancy, could you pull the comment from 4 up again? Because I think that's a really interesting discussion point there. Kind of related to what you two were saying about the difference between a gamer and a scholar. And I, if I was an outsider, I'd have got the same feeling that the best place to be is something that's exclusively Star Atlas. And I from MMA point of view, I know and feel from my side that's not true, but that's kind of the impression I would have got.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, how do you guys feel about that? Because that's the kind of, I think it's just a misstep personally. Poorly thought out, but just an innocent misstep at the end of the day.
We've
But
had
it does
people
have an
suggest,
impact.
we've had people suggest that of Rome since we got started in Star Atlas, a year ago, because we came as a guild essentially out of Mirandus over at Gala Games. And so they're basically thinking that, well, we must be scattered looking at a lot of games, when the truth of the matter is, when you look at the amount of content and theory crafting that we put in over the past year consistently every Sunday, I don't think there's any other source that's created as much Star Atlas content than we have here on this channel. So while we do focus on primarily Star Atlas, I would say Star Atlas first. We would love the concept of Mirandus as an MMO. We just don't know when. So that's kind of waiting in the winds out there. And as a guild, we do have a fair amount of assets in that. And then we also like Alluvium, but Alluvium is still one of those that is more battle arena, individual. It doesn't take a collaborative effort. So when it comes to participating in a virtual economy and doing all the things we want to do in an MMO, Star Atlas has our attention without question.
Yeah, there isn't really much that to do in Mirandus apart from like the odd thing every couple months, which a playtest is due soon, actually.
Right. So,
but yes, if I was on the outside, I would be looking for someone that's going to approach this like they want to show up and dominate it, just like you would if you were part of a guild that was really trying to establish dominance in EVE or World of Warcraft or anything else that required or benefited from a collaborative effort.
Yeah, just looking at the sheer scale of the whole game, it just goes to show that this is a team game, not an individual game. You can play this individually if you want to, but your outcome and then your profitability will be severely limited by playing solo.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
And that's pretty straightforward communication from the team. We see the game transforming into you will have to play and put time. And the more time you put, the more you can earn, right? Or however you want to phrase it, extract or reinvest, right? Depending on who you are. But we're going to step away from the staking model and jump into active player and to earn, right? Active play to earn, right?
Yeah.
And then skill is involved. So yeah, Dark Soup,
it's, I guess, Force put another good comment up, kind of related to what I was going to say, is that we used and have been using the term scholar quite a lot over the last year, but it's starting to dawn on me that perhaps our meaning of the word scholar has kind of separated from community sentiment right now, right? Because I get the feeling that we might all be in agreement if I say scholar, and a lot of the listeners, I'd be interested to know what you think. A lot of people think purely about extraction. However, what we've kind of experienced with some of our scholars is that they've stuck around with us and they're playing games now. And I mean, Axe is probably a good one for us to touch on, Raise. They're not really extracting a lot of anything for the time involved in it right now. We've got a good chunk of them that are playing it and sending clips in community, and it's quite amazing. They're playing it because ultimately right now it's not an optimal way to earn money. They're playing it because they've come this far and they're kind of enjoying it, right? Or at least they've all got reasons to do it. And yeah, how are we going to like encourage people? Because that kind of whole thing about us looking for scholars, I think we're going to have to change that now. I'll say that much, that it's, but we offer scholarships, but we also want gamers. But how's that different? How is what we offer in Axie different to Star Atlas? Are we purely extraction? I mean, it's a lot of questions for us to think about.
That's what I felt about this COPA presentation with everyone who was presenting a token and an NFT. How are you any different? And how are you going to attract anyone other than someone who's just seeing dollar signs in their eyes to get involved and to do maybe the minimum, or to get it to build some type of relationship to then rent out or to purchase the tokens to then stake them to what end, right? To what end are we going to have the oil separate from the water, which are the extractors, and then as we saw with Axie Infinity, everyone leaves, and who's left? The actual gamers, the ones who care about the enjoyment of just playing, whether they make 2 cents or $20, right? So where is that cycle at with Star Atlas with this first COPA event? And like I said earlier, I'm feeling I'm reliving this with Star Atlas to some extent, with the plentiful amount of DACs that are promoting themselves in ways that a lot of DACs or guilds did with Star Atlas, where you're going to have a lot of people and members in your guild. But why are they there? Do you even know? At the larger you get, do you even know, or do you even care? You just need more people. It's number go up, the stats, the analytics, like everything is about that, and it does play a big role in the success of, I guess, anything. You need number go up, right? But quality is also here, and we need to pay attention to that. So, are we here for quality versus quantity? Where's the balance? And that's.
I think there's kind of like a long conversation and a deeper answer to that question, and it's one of the things I like about Star Atlas as a project is because they're building for the long term. They want to create the building blocks of the metaverse and create a platform on which people, individuals, groups can build their own interesting thing within. Whether that is, I can envision one day a person just has a bar on a space station. And that is and there's people that don't even leave the space station. They're not wandering out amongst the stars. They're not in combat. They're just showing up because it is a social place to hang out. Like, for example, Fortnite. There's a lot of people that show up in Fortnite that aren't doing any of the battling. They're just showing up to socialize and having dance-offs and doing things socially. It's become a social extension for them. And so I think that when we look at even stuff that was somewhat before its time, like Second Life, things that are going to create community spaces where people will just simply want to be in there because it's going to be a place for them to socialize and find their own niche of enjoyment within there, whether it's hardcore gameplay, whether they're trying to extract resources and earn. But I think overall, if you make an environment that attracts people that want to be there for the enjoyment of it and for the community side of it, then the rest of the pieces will fall into place. But if you just if it's only about the one, it's only going to be as successful as you keep flooding people in that want to extract from it. We've seen what happens when projects are built around that model.
Exactly. I've been thinking about the play to earn space as well in a whole, and I think what you said just there really encapsulated the whole thought process I had last week. Like, getting rid of the games with extraction, get games in with good quality lore, would just appeal to any other game. If you look into the legacy kind of games right now, we always keep talking about games like World of Warcraft and other major titles, something like Call of Duty or Battlefield, that have been going on for ages and ages, and everybody knows them and everybody loves them. But why do people keep playing those games even if they can't earn in them? That's because you find enjoyment of playing them, and on top of that you find something like community or just plain competition side. So having these three elements combined without even thinking of extraction would set the pace, or at least in my opinion would set a good goal or a pace for a better play and whatever space, to say so. Because ultimately, look what these games have done over the period of times. Like, people who play these games have created their own systems of extracting something from that game, either being it boosts, either being it farming gold and selling it on a secondary platform, creating a gray market of some sorts. There's many different ways on creating value out of things you do. But the interesting part with the play to earn space or play and earn space or whatever apex you want to create out of it is the economy stuff. How are we doing or going to incentivize early investors who help create a project? How are we going to incentivize them to get something back from it without having them need to play the game, and let the developers focus on building a great game?
It
You know,
reminds.
That's.
Go ahead.
I was going to say
I think we're-
there's a slight chance we might be about to say the same thing. If you think back to like when he mentioned their developers and building the product they want to build, whether it's big or small, we've all seen the pressure put on developers for games like Axie, because there's this wild, out of control community sentiment of fix this, do this, sort this. I always wonder if they delivered the product to date that they wanted to deliver, or the product they made what they think people wanted. Is this exactly how they wanted it, or is this an attempt to save SLP? And yeah, to the original point from 4, the social element could really be the way that you get people to come here and not extract. There are loads of games out there, including some I like. You play them to socialize, to talk to people, to meet new people. And if Star Atlas if in this utopian scenario comes out to be everything I want it to be, it could be the platform where you do all of these things.
Right.
And you are extracting something. You're extracting fun and socializing and having a good time and making friends. You're extracting something. I think that's the trick, really. People will always be extracting. It just doesn't need to be money. It can be value in other ways.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is sort of also, I mean, to wrap up the COPA conversation here, and I completely echo what you just said, because and I unfortunately I have to give the same example as the World of Warcraft. When that game came out, I mean, before that we were playing EverQuest, Ultimate Online, and Star Wars Galaxies, but that game changed the genre under the face of MMORPG and just brought it up and just made it something else. So, and like you said, if Star Atlas is this utopian world, this metaverse is what it's promised us. And personally, as Coex and me, I mean, might be my personal view too, but majority of the Coexians would agree me that we don't think Star Atlas as simply just a game. I mean, we see Star Atlas as just like a new beginning, like World of Warcraft. I mean, just if you just look at even the showroom module, yes, this might not sound like a big thing, but there's no other Unreal Engine 5 Phantom Wallet attached tool out there. I mean, they are creating something that's the first in the entire, blockchain, special Solana ecosystem. So a lot of the upcoming projects will take Star Atlas as an example and build on top of it. So for this reason alone, we are, as Coexist, striving to build a structure with a strong foundation, and one that will last for decades, just like World of Warcraft. And again, wrapping up the COPA stuff, and this is sort of, this might sound like almost like a bragging, right? But as the victors of that night, but for us, it was really just about enjoying the Star Atlas community as a whole. It was a challenging competition. Star Atlas is an incredible project, and I think the team did amazing. I mean, I don't know if Ashes or Santi are listening to us. Also Dominic and all the others, even the people that I cannot name in the tech area. I think they did a great job. Yes, certain things can be handled in a much different way, but overall, we really enjoyed it. And it's our utmost pleasure that we are witnessing and existing alongside every new line of history that is going down right now. And yes, these might sound like big words, but if this industry is going to this direction, just like the old industry is going to cloud, if this blockchain gaming is here to stay, and I think Star Atlas will be at least one of the biggest pioneers in this space for sure. And that's a big if they can, accomplish what they promised.
And it is a big undertaking, but I do like the way that they're approaching it overall, because what they set out to do, the truth is the technology to make it happen does not fully exist yet. So that's a tough one when you take on something to that scale. So what do you do in the meantime? You have to focus on ways to keep your early supporters happy. You have to attract new people to a project that's still in development. You have to figure out a way to honor some of that early compensation with some form of staking, which they've done so far with the ships. We know that the Polis DAO is supposed to come to life in July. You've got to create some form of gameplay. And I think it's pretty cool that they decided to go with the model that they are, which is, we've already talked a bit about how it's similar or influenced by Stellaris. So there is going to be some top-down style of gameplay long before it's even possible to do the full, AAA Unreal Engine 5. But even in light of that, they're still bringing elements to life, like the showroom. So I think they're doing a pretty commendable job of staging releases to keep the community engaged, and to provide some form of gameplay and some form of again, earnings with the DAO and things like that, while they're marching towards the overall goal of creating this whole giant virtual economy and metaverse ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I mean, yes, I do have some criticism too. I mean, it's not really all dandies and great face. I mean, that, like, I still criticize the 1 year promise about the ships.
Yep.
That is it's not happening. And the police, though, I mean, I understand there might be some security concerns, and within these spaces, these things are hard. But it would have been much better if they didn't give any kind of even a soft release date, so that people wouldn't invest it from the top. I mean, that these are not. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I have to criticize. I have to be honest here. But apart from that, I still think that yes, that there were some issues, but now it's coming. So we're in a bear market anyways. But if you think about the long term, and I really do hope that in the long term, even the people who bought Polis from the top, they should be. I mean, I hope they'll be okay, because if they can achieve even this 50% they promise on that white paper and the economics paper, I don't think that would be an issue. But that's just me, not a financial advice. But but yes, I mean, it would have been much better if they didn't give a date at the very first place.
Yeah,
it's better that you said it than I said it.
Yeah.
Regular
like, man, that Jess is always saying something. Like, no, but or that Rome podcast is always saying something, because I must give kudos and credit where it's due. I can only imagine the amount of pressure that's on the shoulders after announcing or promising anything in this space the way it is. Yeah. So it's either you were ignorant, and I say that as not knowing enough at the time, and saying something that now you're like, oh crap, maybe just like any one of these institutions like Celsius or 3 Hours Capital or even Axie Infinity. Now there's a lot of community OGs who are saying there was promises and roadmaps early days when we invested initially that said we were going to earn at this point in time, and that this was going to be released, and the bridge is still not even open after the 6 million hack that took place that withdrew it all from the bridge, even though accounts were still safe with their funds. No one is able to get off or on to the Ronin blockchain that was created to buy and sell and transact. So I'm giving credit, and I could only imagine. I'm not the financial advisor. I'm not the engineer. I'm not the brains or part of the team at all. And I could only imagine the trial and error. But on the other hand, did you say things initially? It's even like if you were in a relationship. It doesn't have to be this big with millions of dollars. It could be like, hey, you said you were going to take me out last night. What happened? Like, there had to have been a reason. You either broke your ankle, or you totally forgot, or you lied to me. Like,
you're absolutely right. And I think part of the reason why Scream is coming out the way it is maybe, and I'm speculating right now, and I heard, and now I see that Dominic is here too, and this is just a speculation. Maybe because Scream with its 3D browser version, it wasn't on the roadmap at all, and maybe they realized that this whole 1 year promise is not going to work out, and we might better off come up with a gameplay that instead of just staking. People play it and maybe earn more than they can. If they have good skill, they can even earn more than that. So to sort of maybe compensate that. And obviously, no one could have have no idea about how the markets are gonna go into what direction and whatnot. But that's just me. That's just
I think that's kind of the trick to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. I think it's fair to say for everyone in the space, especially right now, it's not as simple as you make a promise and you wait till it happens or not. I think that's the little bit of appreciation I have is, although it can be frustrating for all of us when you have like a roadmap or a timeline in your head and you don't hit it, there is more, right?
Right.
It's not a case of this is it, this is happening, or it's not happening, or it's happening later. There's always new stuff coming into the fold as well. And although it like the communication needs to be there to make sure we all understand why stuff's delayed, that's a nice thing as well, right? If the reason behind things being slower is because there's more than we had initially anticipated, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's just about how it's packaged.
However,
to be fair,
I'm setting him up.
and I'll give one clear example that I've shared in here before. If you tell people and you set an expectation for what returns you're expected to get, and you say, we have levers to pull, we have the ability to adjust emissions and rewards, and then you don't make a single adjustment, and then you want to add insult to injury by continuing to flood the market with additional ships that people aren't buying, you need to make adjustments in that. So there are things that they have not owned up to be able to set it straight for what they suggested it was going to be in the first place.
That's kind of it, right? The communication part of all my waffle is probably the only word that actually matters, right?
Pretty much. And it really just comes down to that. But thanks for giving us a filler answer. But to be fair, on the other side of the spectrum, who are these imbeciles in these ecosystems and crypto space who actually believe that this promise would actually come true? Right? Like, where else do you get 20% returns on anything other than the crypto space? So we're over here risking it all, as well as like the belief that the relationship between the investor and gamer is going to actually, be long lasting in the same way that the communication is being given to us as far as like what's promised and what is set out to be. And if you read the fine print on anything, nothing is set in stone. Everything is to change, right? So all in all, we're aware of that as as we are here. We could all agree that we're just that naive, or we can discern whether something is a dream on a hill, that you'll never climb up to, or it's something that's going to be needing to work on and different iterations as it goes, right? So we are in that camp of being knowledgeable, at least that much. But then again, as the project, me putting my shoes in a Wagner or in a project of this scope, right, with what they want to achieve, it's just like I would have never, in my wildest dreams, no matter how much money is involved, promise anyone anything, just because of that ultimate fact. Of in the realm of possibilities, like what are the chances of something like this actually happening 100% of the time? So, like Lumen was saying, even if 50% of this is true, which I totally believe they can achieve, or granted with a certain amount of time, it was never going to be 100%. You have to get in early.
Right. Well, I mean that you definitely have a point there, and maybe because people buy NFTs in this space, and a lot of them, like we've seen a lot of projects out there, you buy the NFT and that NFT just stays in your wallet until you see the project or the project comes alive. I mean, what if they didn't say anything? What if they didn't promise anything at all from the very first place?
And so sorry to interrupt you, but if they didn't, you would still have almost kind of maybe, and I can't speak. I'm not the future. I'm not Miss Cleo or a fortune teller or anything. But just to shout out to Westbit, we should have had this conversation months ago. We have always here at Rome been mentioning things along those lines, just trailblazing that on that and doing the deeper dive into the tokenomics and how reasonable and realistic any of this could actually be. As we went along with the updates they gave us, right? We're only working with what's given to us, and then everything that we might have from our personal experiences, either as individuals or as groups from the traditional finance sector or wherever you come from. But if we had this conversation months ago, there would have been some things that the community would have rallied against the project. Where is the communication? Why aren't you give us something? Because a roadmap is almost a prediction of where they're going to be at a certain point in time. Even if it's quarter three, if it was okay, let's say nothing happened in quarter three when they, if we had this conversation and we got a roadmap, if there wasn't any, and we finally got one then, and then based off of this conversation, and then we have quarter three coming up of whatever time they said, and we have nothing, you would have this type of conversation or narrative being, created about projects that are, giving roadmaps, but they're not meeting their goals, and then we want more and more and more. So I can only imagine how stressful it is. Like, how much more does a community want other than it being developed and given to them the next day to stake their ships, to earn land, to earn AXS off of land staking for AXS, to get these security checks done on these audits, get these audits done for these smart contracts, to actually have everything up and running. Right? There's so much that we don't know, and or I don't know personally to just give definitive answers. But but the longer you're in the space and the more you see projects go in and out of these same issues, doing the same exact things almost, it's just like, it seems to be the way it's gonna stay because it's working still, right?
The reason that I have consistently, not just with Star Atlas, but with other projects, the reason that I speak up, even going back to when I called Gala Games out on price padding, which they were, and my call out actually forced them to adjust it, and it saved the community millions of dollars. So it's if there's not people that are going to hold projects and developers accountable, then you're just going to end up with a sea of fanboys and fangirls that are just yes and agree with everything, and then they just can do whatever they want. And because they are an entity that is about making money, a lot of times there is the convenience of cutting corners and making adjustments that I don't want to say are intentionally and designed to be out of integrity, but if you don't have people to hold you accountable, it can easily become a slippery slope.
Pretty much.
Well, let me ask you a question.
I think that's kind of it, right?
For example, Ray, you mentioned that you knew that we were going to win. So what made you think that we were going to win?
Okay, so I was in the Brew chat channel with you for a while, and Santi and Newt was there, and right after your presentation. So even before the presentation, as soon as you were announced, there was just like a flood of coexist. I'm just like, where are these people coming from? Like, you could see them all in the channel, but some people could not be in the channel. They could still type. So, with that known, it's just like, man, by far, I just like, and with you being a member of Rome earlier on, when we transitioned into being Rome for Star Atlas, you were here, and it was just a genuineness about you as an individual before we even saw your face, just through how you communicated and how you wrote, right? So just through text, I was just like, man, genuine guy right there. Just go on places. I didn't know your background. I didn't know your brother creates games. I didn't know any of this about you personally, or the hardships that made you and who you are today, a professor, right? The grand goals to achieve. So by far the most genuine person in the space that I could discern from others. Everyone has this probably ability the longer you spend with someone, but right off the gate, I personally thought so. That's why I was just like, yeah, I'm pretty much a fanboy, man. You can just throw me in that group of people. So when you after the presentation, we go to the Brew channel, and there's just all this praise, and the type of conversation that was had just had me thinking like, man, how can they not win it? I didn't hear any of this type of sentiment or conversation going on. So yeah, maybe it's my spidey sense that was tingling, but I called it, once club was announced as third. I didn't wait until second. I'm just like, man, out of all presentations, the most cohesive in my opinion. And it was just like, it wasn't as normal as, there was different presentations. Some had some things to show with slides and videos. Some had nothing at all, right? There was so much variety during the COPA. But more so than any other guild, it was Coexist that stood out. And by far, like, I'll call out whatever I think is like BS, or just fluff. Myself. Some people have different lines in the sand until it's crossed, and then they start saying something. But yeah, Coexist is just the most heartfelt community out there, and it goes to show you're connected to a country and its people who I've met, and I have a friend who's Turkish myself. So with all these things in my area of existence that I could lean on, I just was like, man, they deserve it. They probably win, and then you won. So I'm just like, not financial advice. Don't follow me on anything with the.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much.
For sure,
it means a lot.
So we've got a fair amount of alpha that came out of COPA as well. I think we got lots to talk about there. Should we jump in?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
All right. Where you want to start, Fancy Hat?
So yeah, we have a couple screenshots. This is about the marketplace, and yeah, this is the mobile view. It looks really awesome. I think it'd be quite cool to be able to just refuel your ships, but I'm not sure what that means if you have a ledger.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the UI. It does look very clean.
It is
Like
clean.
the categories, all the extra small, and I did find it quite annoying that like the way it was sorted in the marketplace right now, it's not like perfect like price. I think it's a mixture of like rarity and size, so I found that quite annoying. So I'm gonna enjoy that.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about going from 2 clicks or 7 clicks to 2 clicks. So everything that we're typically doing day to day is totaling up to around 7 clicks. So this is going to be a great help where we're not going to be clicking our minds away, and it'll have us have more attention on playing the game.
Yeah, it looks like a auction house.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, you bring up a good point. Now I am curious of like what that will look like with with ledgers. If we're going to be in there with the transaction approving for each, like we do now on the ledgers.
Yeah, I think it was Luciano. I think that's his name. A part of the team who was giving this presentation. I think Lumina, you were there with us. Your whole support group and guild was there, and they were releasing this as we were in there. And he was basically saying it's pretty much that, and you're going to be having everything much more easily to do than it is right now. An auction house.
Yeah, purchase directly from other players, so that means no more settling, which is really convenient.
Yeah, they're getting rid of Serum.
Interesting.
Yep, Serum is disappearing, and we can finally just peer-to-peer our way to Valhalla.
Well, I mean, that is the exciting part of a virtual economy, is to see that transition over to player-based, player-run, player-crafted items. I'm excited for this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I gotta say one thing about Serum though. One of the things that taught us was to trade on Serum, like settling things that I've never done that before. Like we had to learn it literally. So that was an experience for sure.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, if I hadn't personally learned that and gone through that, I wouldn't have many of the ships that I have now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another page. It talks a bit about the the way it can be organized, which is great.
I like the category separation. That is cool.
Yeah, looks cool.
It'll make comparisons a bit more easier, like when you know what you're going for.
For sure.
So they have them by ship size there. It would be also nice if there was a way that you could actually sort by functionality, like what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, you mean
manufacturer?
roles.
That would be good.
Yeah. Or
roles, manufacturers, rarities.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does say rarities. Yeah, it does
At
look great.
some point, you might see a guild tab there. You can just see the macro information on guilds in the space. That would be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Where you want to give your business.
All right.
So this is just TLDR, pretty much.
Another side note on that, if you had the ability to select from guilds, perhaps you have an arrangement with a guild where the ships they manufacture, your guild is entitled to a discount. So that's where you want to bring your business. So that could be interesting. Yeah.
They did mention the referral code system that's being worked on and to be released soon as well. So if you had everything in-house, it just makes it that much easier for the person or the user coming in to just not need to have 5 tabs open with charts and all these other things that get you to where you feel comfortable or confident in as far as playing the game in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
So this was like a TLDR type of thing. So just the highlights from the user. What does UX mean? I can't remember.
User experience.
That could be it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So improved usability and discoverability, improved mobile experience, simplified the purchase and sale, data insights, remove the need to settle orders, create an authentic player-to-player MMO-style order experience that will support the needs of our ever-expanding universe of game items, ships, and NFTs.
Bookmarking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And filtering, sort, search. Nice.
Yeah, I think he went pretty. I mean, he covered the filtering process. He said it was going to be pretty in depth. So I look forward to that. Filters are good.
Thanks, Dominic.
Yay.
So that's the second one. Who wants to take that? This is about engineering and blockchain side highlights.
First version of the Star Atlas game servers.
So we got highlights from the engineering and blockchain side. So we got a rollout of the first version of the Star Atlas game servers, which is pretty cool, providing real-time blockchain data to users. That was pretty interesting. So you're going to have real-time data coming in. So a lot of guilds might be able to do things with that for their own purposes. And then fully decentralized. So the blockchain data reads are piped through a centralized source, improving the overall performance and responsiveness of the application. And we have the market program is built as an open access tool for anyone in the Solana ecosystem to utilize. So marketplace for sure is going to be where the party is happening. Fundamentally different from Serum. Users are buying orders directly from players instead of placing bid-ask orders into an open marketplace. And then no settling of orders, simplified experience, and tailored to feel like MMO marketplace, like a MMO marketplace.
So while I'm not a security and blockchain specialist, does that open the doors for shenanigans if you have player-to-player transactions, which means you're connecting player wallet to player wallet? I don't know what the mediation process is in between, but I'm curious how that works from a security standpoint.
I mean, I'd expect that it'll be player to player, but still, as it would be like as it has been now. So it's kind of like you're just interacting with a person. So it's kind of like a closed book of sorts, if that's like a strange analogy.
Yeah.
And this
that's a bit of hoping from me, but I hope that's the way it is. Yeah, not actual. I don't know how they'd actually deviate from the current system to make an exclusive like P2P model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it reminds me of Vitalik Buterin's. It was coined a. I'll pull it up. I have it actually as a tab. The blockchain trilemma. So just short and sweet. Let me just screen share. But the three are decentralization, security, and scalability. Although these are for building out an actual layer one, or a blockchain, it's the same for creating a game because it has an economy. You want to appeal to the masses, so it has to be fun and scalable, right? But these are the three for a blockchain that's being created, and this seems to be the case with every blockchain. You can't have all three at 100% all the time. So,
right. You generally get two of them, and that's the whole concept of layer two is to make up for the absence of the one that you can't account for.
Right. So without a doubt, the unknown, there can be and probably will at some point something going on in any one of these. So that's why in the beginning when we're criticizing, like we have a fundamental understanding of like what's going on. So we can't just be always, the support is there. Like we commend everyone for what they're doing, from the DAX in the community to the actual project creators, Star Atlas, and the ones who created Solana, who are building Solana. All the devs there. It's just like there's so many layers to how we even exist down here at the bottom as investors and players to begin with. So, it reminded me of that. I just thought I'd share. I'll whip myself off.
So there was also this reveal of a Calico Guardian, which I found very impressive.
Woo! Let's go.
Sexy ship.
So clean.
Comes with built-in hydroponics. No.
And you said they did changes to the dimensions recently.
Just in the original, this nose looks like a little bit pointier and longer. That's the only thing. The original version or layout looked more like the nose was about the same width or length as the circular section of the ship. But I'm looking forward to what the inside looks like. That would be pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, the reason I was all about this ship from the start is because with as little as we know, one of the things that to me stands out as a ship with good utility is something that is from the onset set out to be a multi-role. And of course, the drones that they have there, and also, I mean, it just also reminds me of a lot of the ships styles that from shows that we've seen that just kind of have that sleek look. I always think that this ship, and of course, I like the Hero, and of course, the pound for pound best ship, as I always say, I think is the Visus O-Pod. If there could only have one ship in a good small price range, that would probably be it. I think the sexiest ship is the Bitboat. I think that is the one that looks the most stylish. It's like the high-end luxury vehicle. But yeah, this Calico Guardian is always been like my top choice.
I like the Tree Arrow. That's my top choice. But I think they I think they're doing a fantastic job on how they have the game release that's coming up, plus the showroom. I think they're hitting all the angles and scratching all the tickles of the community to do their best to have everyone satisfied as they're continuing to build. So there's going to be something for everyone, right? The skeptical people who are like, what is this? Is this how it's going to look in Real Engine 5? Yes. You could check out the insides of the interior of any
I
ship.
like the skin on that.
Yeah, the red one. I forget the name of it now.
Black Sun?
Yeah, the Black Sun. That one is superb. But I think the team is hitting all the angles right, and it's just the economic side of things and communication, like we talked about earlier, for certain things. But yeah.
Yeah, one thing about COPA that I forgot was the judges' voice changes. They were a bit weird, especially Darth Vader.
I have a question for you.
I'll be honest with you. I was like, yes, I've been in the United States for the past 17, 18 years, but I mean, English is not my native language. So, and apart from that, on top of that, in that voice, I was like, what if I don't understand the question? I mean, especially the Uster guy. I mean, that he was like, I was really amazed that with some of the presentation, I honestly didn't understand the question at all. And I don't know how they answered the question. So that was a little bit overdone. So that's one criticism right there. Well, Dominic, yes, that's the truth.
No, but it was fun. We were guessing behind the scenes of in chat, like, okay, who do we think's voice is this? Like, that sounds like Santi, or it could be Newt. Like, was that Wagner?
Santi was in the other room talking.
Right,
so.
right.
And one thing about that, I have to add, because during the COPA chat, I think the club's Lloyd, he asked the question because he wanted to know who were the judges, like how they picked the judges. And then the same question came from the club again the next day on the Twitter Spaces, which Ash pretty much said they were just, representatives from far galaxy or whatnot. So they didn't really say anything. So I probably would not know. But I do have a suggestion from here, since Dominic is here too, because we know they're going to do another COPA event at some point. And yes, we don't know the criteria for these judges, but I mean, now we won the big prize and then Dark Matter and Club. Maybe we can be the judges for the next one.
Ooh,
that's a good idea.
How about that?
Conflict of interest, maybe? No,
Spicy.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just a thought.
We'll put it to a proposal.
Right, yeah.
Let's make a proposal.
Dog style, yeah.
Let the community of Twitter space dictate what happens.
Talking about the DAO, this was also released.
Cool.
The Polis Locker. Yep. Immediately on that news, Polis jumped about 5 to 8%. I think it's come back down since then a little bit.
No.
Yeah. So the voting power it goes down over time.
Okay, so we do see
the
the
end of your
lockout.
lock expiration.
So lockup extends from 2 weeks out to 5 years. And that's a big jump. So 1x all the way up to 10x. Interesting.
Yeah, and voting power is directly correlated with how long
It's
you
taking
stake.
time, yeah.
So we'll see who's really about this Star Atlas community and project. Because how dedicated really is anyone if they're not going to do 5 years?
Well, here's one of my questions would be is like, okay, so how long do we have before the in-game DAOs come into play? Because as a polis holder, you obviously don't want to lock up all of your polis for 5 years if you're going to need some of that polis in game. So that'd be interesting. Like if they were to say that, hey, we know that there's not going to be use of in-game polis for the next year, then you're going to see a lot more people willingly lock up the polis that they have for a period of time.
See, but I don't think that there's any utility for polis other than the voting power. If I stand corrected, then so be it. But I think it's all wrapped in to having it locked up that long for the in-game benefits of voting power. So
this is external. This is completely external. This is for the DAO that votes on things as it relates to the project itself.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a proposals tab at the top. There's profile, treasury, and more.
I was on the wrong page of the book.
So basically, I was saying that because this is external,
right.
How does that compare? What is the timeline for internal use of polis? And that's going to dictate. That's a question I'm sure a lot of people have. That's going to influence how much or the length of time they're willing to lock up polis externally.
Right.
So after this gets revealed, I imagine there would be like a yearly annual dumping after everyone locks up, depending on how much
100%. No, I'm very. I always err on the side of what Jesse's just said. Really, I really think that's something that we need to know in advance. Ultimately, even if you see, I'm personally super invested in it, right? But I always want to make an informed decision.
Right.
I'm going to do one or the other. Which one do I want to do, and when can I do it?
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that can happen is you do something, you commit to it in anything, and then sooner or later, something halfway through comes up that you really want to be involved in, and you can't. It's just another thing, right? We mentioned it earlier about improved communications. There's a big green tick, easy home run. Another easy thing to implement.
Right.
They could add a functionality to break up your lockup period at a small cost, perhaps something like that.
And there's another consideration too. So the polis and the emissions that they were showing there, that comes off the emissions schedule of polis that is in the economy paper, I believe. What that doesn't account for is that there is already an ample amount of Atlas and everything that has happened as a result of the 4Rs that now sits in a treasury that is up for the DAO to decide what they want to do with it. So that could be a vote towards how to use that to create stuff within Star Atlas. That could be a vote that says, well, you know what, because this is a long project, we want to reward the DAO contributors, so that can be actual used as reward. So yeah, there's a fair amount that's sitting there now. That's coming from the 4Rs, and I guess going forward, since the 4Rs are going to be player-based economy, what will start to feed that treasury now is the expense in Atlas you pay to upgrade your hangars. That will go to the DAO treasury, as I understand.
It'd be great to get some utility for Atlas finally.
Mm-hmm.
That brings the whole ecosystem up.
Yeah, it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, and then Atlas staking is coming, I guess I'll say soon after, but it might be 4 to 6 weeks, if that's soon. So it's just going to be polis at the offset.
I'd be happy with just screaming 4 to 6 weeks then.
Yeah.
So this is one of the pictures that we saw, Scream, and it's a Thimble member of the new ship, Medium Bounty Hunter, in the hangar.
So that's interesting. So if does that mean, is that one hangar that we're looking at right now that has been upgraded to 3 slots? Is that one hangar that comes with 3 slots? It'll be, I mean, I don't think anyone knows. Probably even the dev team is still trying to work that out.
Yeah,
but
the numbers aren't definitive, but it does say tier 5 on the top.
Okay.
And there's a little drop down below hangar as well as space. So maybe, if that's what's dropped down after you press hangar, you have ships and spaces. other, is there any, like, under ships, it for each hangar will you see another, like, or is it just, what if you had 5 hangars? How does that, I guess, display when you click these types of tabs?
I mean, you can see the outlines of the blocks, right? So you can kind of get like a rough idea of what the minimum size could be. I assume that's what the squares, the little outlines, are for.
Yeah, I assume the squares, if they are next to each other, they'd be like relative to their size. So
Right.
the medium hanger and the small hanger that would be tiny next to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
I find it quite interesting as an on-dock button next to the repair, resupply, manage.
On dock.
Interesting.
Also
Inventory
wondering,
and crafting. 2 additional tabs there.
Yeah,
Also wondering if you look at this picture and you see the tier 5, would that say that if you upgrade your hangar, you get some sort of bonuses to resupplying speed, repairing costs, or something like that?
Well, that's a good question. Even if they don't have that built in, that would be an interesting component to work in, ways that you can upgrade your hangar, because I mean, obviously a lot of this is probably going to be timer based. And so if you've upgraded your hangar to a tier 5, maybe in addition to the fact that it's opened up more space for larger ships or more
Exactly.
smaller ships, you could actually get faster refueling or component and mod changes, things like
Yeah,
that.
it would incentivize somebody who doesn't have like one of the large ships to still upgrade their hangar.
Right. Exactly. Yep. I like that.
so moving on to the hangar section, you can see all the different types of ships in there. 2 Thimble members, 2 Piss R6, 1 Agrica Mic, 1 Thimble air bike.
Interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, with that ship, I know we're probably talking about that ship in a bit. Are those weapons? What is that? It doesn't look like propulsion system. I think that would be on the back, right?
So I think they're weapons, yeah. And then
Yeah.
it has the little entrance in between it that opens up. Yeah, we can go on to that in a bit.
Cool.
I think it's part of the engines, to be fair, because there's like 2 gun racks on each side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess you could. It gets just propulsion goes all the way through to the back. I guess so. Yeah, could be. So what are they saying with the amount of ships that are in here? So this is 1 hangar, and they're saying that it will hold all of those ships based on the tier 5 that's in there now. And then again, this is not in stone, but they're showing 2 Mambas, 2 R6s, an Ogreca Mic, and a Thimble air bike.
Yeah.
I believe that's how it is.
And if you see like the scroll bar at the bottom, it looks like it's scrolled all the way down. There's a lot more, perhaps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps these are all the ships that you have in your account, and you need to allocate them to the spaces within your hangar. Because if you go back to the previous image, you see that the highlighted tab is now spaces. So this will show your hangar size and how much spaces you have to put ships in and send out onto missions. But if you have a big wallet with multiple ships, you will still need to puzzle out which would be your layout to use in the game.
Right, because you couldn't fit all of them in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what the model will be going forward. We're in this interesting space where now we have ships that don't fit into hangars, where in the future, I think it would probably be more fitting to not even be able to purchase a ship unless you got the hangar space for it. Otherwise, where does it go in the meantime?
Staking.
Yeah.
But if there's going to be
Especially-
no staking, then yeah, a good point.
So we got an interesting question in the chat a while ago, and it is: are you guys worried about Solana having problems while going forward, and can this slow the game?
I can say something about this real quick. You have to realize that Solana, and then yes, I really love Solana, but it's not. I mean, that's not the main reason why I'm saying it. Solana is still it's on the mainnet beta, so you have to realize that it didn't came out as a full released layer 1. So if you think about Ethereum, I mean, Ethereum has been out there for so long. So yes, I mean, in the past few months, almost a year, we have a lot of outage issues. Not a lot. I think there were like 6 of them, and out of the 6, the 2 were really bad. They have to reset. All the validators need to restart and everything. The whole thing, we had to wait for almost a day or two. But you have to realize it's still on beta. It didn't release, still on mainnet beta, and there's really a long way to go for it. And the way how we visualize Star Atlas, like the stuff that they promise, I mean, we have to be realistic. The world that we are envisioning, at least personally, I am. Like I said, I have a dream about building a university in Star Atlas and having courses where we can have people have NFTs and get those NFTs, and they're gonna get into classrooms and they're gonna pick courses, and each course will have their associated NFT and whatnot. That's just my vision, one of the visions that I have with Star Atlas, and so bringing education to Star Atlas. But this is probably 3 to 4 or 5, 6 years ahead of us. So if you think about Ethereum, there is still a lot of roads and ways for Solana to go. And by just looking at the current sort of candidates out there, Solana is the only one that can go up to 55,000 TPS. And on the mainnet, they reached all the way to 800,000. And even with the stress that they had with the outage, it jumped to 400,000 TPS. So if you're going to build an MMORPG, I mean, you don't really have any other solution other than Solana at this point if it's going to be on chain.
Right.
So that's the main reason, to be honest.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's the nature of it. It's like, are there concerns? Absolutely, because this is new technology. It's being stress tested, but the only alternative is to wait. And I'm not really feeling like waiting. So I'm here.
Well, that's it, right? We felt the brunt of Solana as well, right? We had Solana outages the day our token went out, and we felt the pain of it a few times. But it's a work in progress, right? And if we've got big picture thinking on, if not Solana, what else?
Yeah.
Because there are obstacles that we'd have encountered the same issues with other things. So, and that's a genuine and open question to everyone listening and you guys. If not Solana, what would we do?
Yeah.
Polygon is making strides. The acquisition of what's the head of gaming in YouTube. And then they just picked up a couple other people that were pretty, renowned in their own way in different spaces. But are all of the transactions gonna be on chain? Like, that's what another question I have is, like, every single transaction through Scream, no matter what it is that encompasses Star Atlas, is it all on chain, or are we going to have something that's off chain? So I'm not totally sure.
Right.
I think that's interesting though, because I agree with that sentiment, right? But you're kind of gambling on speculation again, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Looking to the future and thinking this is good, what could be happening. That's kind of what we're doing already.
Yep.
All the alternatives are based on hope as well, right? So.
When you think of all of the moving parts and all of the potential points of failure, man, you got to be pretty
kind of crazy.
I hear you, Vinicus. I hear you.
Yeah, be careful.
It also often comes down to what people say about other chains. Like, if you ever have used Solana before, you love it. There's no simple other thing about it. Solana is so fast, so good designed.
So cheap.
Once you use it, once you used it, you just instantly love it. Whereas to Polygon, for instance, due to the sharding, it doesn't always work. You have a lot of failed transactions, and to me, that's much more of an issue than something that could sometimes potentially, due to growing pains, shut down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this Polygon game called Sunflower, and in the beginning of May or something, after the release of the game, that game alone just broke the entire Polygon network. And it was like almost like one of those Farmville games on Facebook, but it was crazy.
Yeah, he since after it was shut down, and he had to update the game. I forget his name now, Witty or Diddy, but he also came from the Axie Infinity community, and he made his name there, and he's a developer himself, and so it's still running. It's still a pretty entertaining game. A lot of people play it that I know in the ecosystem because it's like a time sink. You know, you could
Right.
still earn from it, but yeah, it halted almost the whole network.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
pretty funny.
I know a lot. I know for a fact that a lot of the Turks are playing it. There's a big Turkish community of that game, too.
Nice.
What else we got, Panchette?
So yeah, the Thimble Member was released this week. A medium bounty hunter. We can go a bit into it.
Yeah, this is the
Two
Star Wars
weapon
vibe.
large. Sorry, two
It
large
has a-
weapons.
Yeah, it has so those are weapons then. Okay.
Yeah,
So so basically it's kind of like basically what Fimble does, like when you basically the one that's a bike, the air bike, where you just strap a seat on an engine, and here you just strap a ship on two big weapons.
I think, yeah, Mamba, snake, venom, teeth. I kind of see it. Yeah. I love
It
that.
reminds me of that style of ship you see in the movies where they're having trouble getting it started, and then they finally get it started in time and take off.
Yeah.
I like this little thing next to it as well. Looks kind of like a drone.
What do we
Wonder
think
if that-
that is? It's something also made by Fimble, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, it says Cafe Racer on it.
Okay. Interesting.
Looks like a little turret or drone. And then there's the X5 in the background.
Yeah, but
I
you see
wanna
that
find,
little drone popping up in nearly all the pictures. Like here, you have two of them.
Yeah. Says target. I can't read that, it's too blurry. But yeah.
Speaking of racing, I mean, that's something that, as a Guild Rome, we definitely plan to be pretty involved in and have some pretty cool things that we'll share at some point with regards to Roman Colosseums and racing circuits. But that seems like a step that Star Atlas could lean into before a full immersion UE5 style game. Maybe one of the things they do is they put together a racing circuit that people can participate in with all of the racer class of ships.
I'd love that. I think logistically, one of the first things I want to keep seeing is the ships, one, and then seeing how they move, right? I think
Right.
logically, as you go through the development stage, the combat and the hitboxes, and then it's going to be a lot more intricate, right? I
Yeah.
think from their point of view, it makes sense, and I'd love it.
I mean, they could even start with just a handful of the ships, just that first class of racer, just the extra small, and start there. And then later they add the next class and then get up to the jet. It could work.
Like, what if they develop different kind of circuits on different planets or
Yeah.
moons,
Different
and
terrain.
add some atmospherical environments to that? Like, let's say you're on a moon and the gravity is higher, or the gravity less is higher. So if you take a bump or a turn where you gravitate a little bit much or much more than you would in some sort of atmospheric flight on the planet.
Right.
That would be really interesting.
That would be cool.
I think
Yes.
that's the kind of thing that'd really give people something to stick their teeth into. That kind of mechanical variance, that'd just be amazing.
Yeah, it also ties in with skill and knowledge of how the handling of your ship goes, and then what planet or moon you're racing on, and how the circuit is, and
Right.
it adds that layer of complexity to it.
Hey,
Yeah, we
Dominic, whatever I shared, you're more than welcome to tag me and share it.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like the look of this ship, just from all the interior of this. Like, you can see it this way. There's two seats in the front, two in the back, and I'm not sure where all the prisoners go, if this is a bounty hunter ship after all, but it's very awesome.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Supernova Racing League. So the community, what we were just talking about as far as racing, is Star Atlas actually heading this and making a game that was of what we just mentioned. But the community is always one step ahead, it seems, and they're building out a Supernova Racing League, and it's going to be not you utilizing Star Atlas ships, but I forget the name now, but it's a different game that's coming out. Shade. There you go. Thanks. So it's interesting. They have a Discord, and they have all the different guilds who want to participate. Up to 3 different racers from each guild can represent that could be representatives for their guild in racing, and yeah, it's happening. So it would be great to see Star Atlas do this as like next to or outside of Scream. That would be something we could play, and it would keep people busy for years to come.
Yep.
So Lumina had some coexist stuff. You
Yeah.
can share. There's the video from his presentation that he couldn't play live, I believe, so we can give him that opportunity here.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I have it loaded up here. I'm not sure I got sound on.
Nothing's coming in for me, but there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
So if you can stop there real quick, if you go back a little bit, obviously it's kind of hard to see it with the people, but so these are not a JPEG. These are actually the holograms of the guild, the guild logos. Yeah,
Nice.
That's
you
cool.
can't really see it from this angle, but you can actually go through them. Yeah.
Nice.
There we are.
Yeah, there you go. That's our Rome's hologram next to the bones. So
We gotta
that's
get MMA
right
in.
there. Says Coexist remembers. That's our first NFT that we minted.
Very nice. All
Nice.
these skill dreams as well.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to reach out to you in your DMs, Lumina, and you maybe tell us what the dimensions are for anything that we need to send over. We could probably populate our room.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
An inward expansion is embodied by Star Atlas. Star Atlas is a new metaverse. It's going to open up the final frontier, the intergalactic frontier.
So this was the Unreal Engine 4 module that we integrated to Unreal Engine 5.
So how easy is that, or maybe complicated is that process? Are you like what are you
I'll
building
tell
from
you.
scratch? Yep.
Well, yes and no. I'll tell you this. This is a one-man team. My
Your
brother, he entirely built the whole thing. Obviously, I mean, he didn't draw everything from scratch. All of these assets are from Epic Games Unreal Engine store. But building it, coding it, and putting back together took a lot of time. You know, one of the things that we wanted to, obviously, we explained it during the presentation, to introduce Star Atlas to the Turkish community due to a language barrier. But then it became a sort of a community project. And probably I shared it during the presentation, I don't remember right now, and you will see it now. So this is a new iteration that you can actually fly a ship.
Nice.
And in the future, you're going to have spaceship racing, just like the Cryptosonic is doing. So I'm going to actually have a proposal to them. I talked to Cryptosonic before that we might use our game as the community spaceship racing game. So we are planning to integrate spaceship racing and an FPS game through Elira, like Viticus mentioned in our previous stream. So that's also coming. But the timeline will be probably a few months at least. I mean, I would say not before the winter time. So, but it is coming. It will come, and the guilds will be able to. Now, all these rooms. So when we integrate the multiplayer version of it, the guild masters will have a key code to their room, so the other members cannot get into those rooms, so they can hang out at the main lobby and whatnot. And so out of all the guilds, at least your family gave us a lot of stuff. Plus they had the NFT minting. So we also attended to that NFT and used some of our NFTs for their room. Currently, we are building the Interstellar Alliance, and guys, Rome. I mean, and all the other guilds out there, MMA. If you have some content that we can you can share with us, we are more than glad to build your room too. And hopefully, this will serve as a nice community project that people can hang out and do other things and play little mini games in it until we see the actual Star Atlas game.
Man, that's the thing I love about this space right now, and the different engines that are being used to create this kind of stuff, where a 1 or 2 man team or a couple of people can take a bunch of things off the shelf and bring what they have in their head to life. And just to remember that we literally, in the span of a half a century, 50 years now, we went from Pong, 2 paddles and a dot going back and forth, to anyone being able to say, hey, you know what? I want to create a world. I want to create a space, and they're able to bring it to life. I mean, it's just a fantastic time to be alive.
Yeah, it's so sublime, this, man. Yeah, we'll be sure to send you some stuff, because it's just absolutely brilliant. Again, I think you guys deserve all the props in the world for getting this, because it's just sublime.
Thanks, appreciate it.
So, the biggest question of today: are you promising us release dates? Shout out to Thor. Are you following the same path as all of these other projects?
Where is General Akbar?
You said winter. Are you talking winter 2030 or winter?
Well, see, it's a vague term, but hopefully before the end of this year for sure. That's why because now we're kind of on a vacation in Turkey. Once we get back to US, we're gonna have to go back to our own job, but yeah, because we really want the community to stay alive and work together collaboratively. And I think this will, hopefully spark that little fire in every one of them. One of the members of Dark Matter, he actually joined us the other night on our Discord. He has a project too on his mind about the COPA event. And then, but just right there, like they just got together just a few months ago, one of the smallest guilds in the Metaverse, and they got the second prize and already started building things in the community. So yeah, I mean, I can't help but reiterate it all the time. Star Atlas community is one of the greatest community in the entire Metaverse, and I say it this once and twice, 100 times. Star Atlas, we are lucky to be pioneers of this great game, and hopefully they can accomplish whatever they promise. But they are also the Star Atlas team. They are real lucky to have this kind of a community.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And it's one of the hardest things for any project to cultivate is a strong, community that understands, more or less what's going on, and they're not just here for money. So.
Right.
So have you guys given any thought to how you're going to use? Are they a fixed number of ships? Do they just pick the ships for you, or do they give you get to say, here's the ships we want?
I have no idea. I don't know.
And do you pay VWAP for them, or do you pay current market prices?
I don't know.
We want tokenomics, man. Give us paper.
Chimera guy won a headset as well. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
oh, right.
Yeah.
The headset giveaway was great too.
Coexist too. It's good to see it. To going to people with the guild tags there.
All right.
Speaking of headsets, Tilkin, what are you wearing there? What are those cans? Oh yeah, look at them. That's right. That's what I thought those were.
Is that a partnership? Is that like an alliance? What's that mean?
It's a dynamic.
Yeah. Nice. What else we got, Fancy?
So yeah, I think that might be it for Star Atlas. We did talk about the graphic novel briefly. Yeah, so there is going to be a playtest coming up. We showed a bit of on Miranda's. We showed a bit of gameplay last week, or I think it was last week.
Yeah.
And looking forward to getting in there again and seeing what's up.
come a long way. And for those that aren't into this project and something we've been following for a long time, it's been an interesting development journey. This continues to get new levels of layers to it. It was very blocky in the very beginning. And we still don't even know if they'll fully be able to pull this off. In its own right, it is incredibly ambitious because they literally want to do things that have never been done in games, such as utilize artificial intelligence to influence the learned behavior and pack animal mentality of even these goblins so that they will actually learn from their interactions and be able to act together as a pack based on how they're interacted with, rather than the traditional mobs that just spawn and have the same basic behavior as we've seen in past MMOs. So whether or not they can pull that off, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I brought up that gameplay again just to recap.
Very cool. But the trees, remember we went from just a tree that was a complete square to now they actually have foliage and leaves and the grass as well. And,
That description you just gave about the goblins, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
They
it's
pull
very
that kind of stuff off. Sorry for echoing, by the way. I can hear it.
yeah, for all of us, actually. Not sure why.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is this, because you guys have been in this a long time, that kind of thing you just said is very cool. Is this the kind of stuff that you joined up for? Is it what you envisioned, or is it more? Or
And someone actually, each individual might want to mute, see if we can identify the cause of that echo, because it's pretty heavy. Is it still there? Still there for me. I'm going to mute for a second and see if it's gone. If someone else can say something.
hello.
Hello.
It's still there.
Yeah, not sure what's causing it. But to answer your question, yes. So the mastermind behind this being developed is a guy named Michael McCarthy, and he comes from a world of having been a part of games like what is that main game? Arcanum. He was a big part of that. In some other games back in the day. And that's kind of his passion. And this is kind of like his opus, so to begin with. But he wants it to be a survival simulation. So it's not just going to be a traditional MMO. He wants it to be ridiculously scary at night. The dark is a real dark place. There's not like a constant respawn of creatures. So if you kill a boss, there'll be instances where that boss is just gone forever, and you might get a unique skill or something from him. The thing that, and also death is going to play an interesting role. Cemeteries are going to be interesting in there. They have all of these elements that have never been introduced before, but there's a lot of risk with that because things that are interesting that you could implement in an MMO doesn't mean it has playability. So it's going to be a big test, but I do like the fact that they are trying to be innovative.
Oh, no, I love there's so many little, I love the sound of it.
Lots of echo going on. We have finished all the Star Atlas things today. Do we have anything for Mirandus or Axie or DeFi Kingdoms, Ray?
Well, not exactly slides, but I could just give a mini update on what's going on. So Axie Infinity, we have the community, well, I forget the website's name, but it's a place where if you have at least 25 or more AXS, you can be a part of a Discord, per se, for lack of better terms, or a conversation that has threads on different topics that would influence the project moving forward. So the team has come together and created a place where people who have a stake, at least in AXS, for voting purposes, I guess, until they have something that's DAC related or on the chain. I don't think it's on chain. It's just a website like Discord where you can go and only vote up or down on things you want and take conversation in. So these are all good signs of the team hearing out the community and giving them something that aligns with what they're requesting. But there's also land staking, and and on that front, for land staking, there's some audits still taking place for you to earn AXS on your land if you have it. Then there's also the bridge that's still not open, and it's delayed again by next week. So it was supposed to be opened up 3 days ago, but there wasn't any communication on why it was going to be delayed yesterday. And so now the community at this point, especially some OGs, you could see some tweets from them, are saying that, hey, on the land front for staking rewards, it was promised a long time ago, and we should be having, a payment coming due to us from last December, right? So up until when, because land was always touted to be that it's a stream of AXS, it was a constant it was going to be that. Literally, that was the selling point for land, before there was any major ideas of what it would be and how you would play on the land. There was talk about it being dungeon diving, kingdom building, but very vague things, nothing's concrete as we have even with Mirandus. We have actual play tests of things that you can maybe imagine what could be done, and then with the minimal information given from devs. So, there's people demanding almost, and it's only right because of how much of the community had to deal with things not happening after the team more or less planned it or promised it. We talked about that earlier with Star Atlas. These things happen, but a lot of the times, or the opinions of the teams who are building are basically like, just because you own something doesn't mean you should just own it and earn from having it. So there's that debate. I don't know if there's any comments on that, but
I got a tough question, and you guys, maybe for love of Axie, feel free not to answer it. But my question is this: from the outside looking in, as I have been for a long time, even though I've had scholars in the space, personally, I've kind of written it off. And I don't know that that's fair. It's just only so many things I can focus on. And I have to wonder, was Axie like one of the bands from the 80s where they had their big hit, and then are they going to be able to do anything to reinvent themselves? Can they Bon Jovi their way out of it? Or are they like Nickelback and they're done?
No, please, not Nickelback. no, but just go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead, Doctor.
To answer the question directly, on a personal level, I'm not happy. It's not even a thing for me. It's for everybody that's ultimately been invested. They've gone through this radical journey. They've had the highest of highs in the space, make no excuse about that, and some of the lowest moments. And ultimately, I just want to see the people who supported them and got it off the floor to even have that opportunity to reach those peaks be rewarded. And although there's that debate about, are they entitled to it? Do they deserve it? Well, for me, yes, they do, because if it wasn't for their financial backing, community building support, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
Yep.
And they deserve to be rewarded for that. Whether that's a debate about the money and economics, but the fact is that they should be grateful. And I know that's a strong word to use, but a game's nothing without its community. And for the longest time, they had a community that really, really pushed them to heights that they would not have reached on their own. Let me give you an example. I have been on Axie Chat, and I know those guys very well, similar to what you guys are doing for Star Atlas. To put that amount of time and effort in to support them, like what you guys have done and what others have done for other games, those kind of people who put hours and days and months of their lives into a project out of passion, are they entitled to it? Who knows? But ethically and morally, yeah, I think you should say thank you. And I don't know what form that takes, but it has to be something, and it has to be something soon. Because how long do you wait?
Right. And I talk like a conscious observer to it. I could get personal and say I totally agree with you. I share the same sentiment, and we have some issues with that, and how, I guess, philosophically, right? So we have some members of the team who are saying, no, you rip the benefits of the markets and how high we went, and based on your own decisions, did you profit or not? It's up to you at that point. But we're doing everything we can to build a project that is around like fun game where, and it all changes. It all changes as the attention and the markets change, because you cannot just simply tout the same horn or toot the same horn and claim that you're something when everyone else in the space realizes that you're not, and now you have to to stay relevant at least. So I don't know. I'm over here. I still have my land. I took a loss across all projects I'm invested in just because of the macro, right? But all in all, I don't see to your question, Jess. I don't think they're down and out. They're not a Nickelback at all, by no means. There's still promise for the Ronin chain, where there's the builders program, right? So they did come out with their top 10 games that they're also going to be helping develop or funding to develop, as those games have their own developers. And it's community-based development for mini games that are going to live and utilize these in-game currencies of the Axie ecosystem. SLP, XS, and RON. RON being the equivalent to Ethereum for all transactions on the chain where these games will live. So you can check out videos. I had a tab from last week, but you could check out on their Discord or on their Twitter all the games that were chosen. Just like with this COPA event, there was, out of a certain amount of applications, there were certain games that are being developed by the community that were chosen, and you can check out each game, and they're all different genre of game, utilizing the Axies that you have in your wallet and the tokens associated in the ecosystem. So there's a lot of promise, but it's foreshadowed by all this negative economic and things that are being brought up as major important things to talk about. So yeah, on that front, I don't think Axie is down and out. I think growing pains for how much longer, maybe a long time to come, but there's good stuff happening. There's the community by far is still the strongest compared to any other. Even with all the stuff that we talk about and the economic woes of any project, like the ones we mention usually have a community that's stronger than other games that we might know of. Like, for example, Gala Games. You cannot deny that their community are just, whether you call them zombies, blind, their heads in the clouds and they don't know anything else, but they're just like cheerleaders. That's a community. And it's strong as hell. You see the Metaverse.
Apologies to those of you listening that are part of the Gala Games community.
Well, I'm part of them, so I accept your apology. It's for each their own as far as like individuals, but the project is cool. I enjoy the game to some extent. Again, I'm more of a land play. I like to get deeper than just a card game type of game. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if there's no other comments on that, just DeFi Kingdoms. Although prices are just down and out, the projects and their builders aren't. So for what it's worth, they came out with DeFi DFK dueling, so you can use your heroes now. And again, these projects have the funding to last. And that's what it really comes down to. It's just like the confidence also comes not just because of a community, although it's a major point of interest for people investing. It's also like, do they even have the money? Because the project could be cool, the idea and what they have so far with the community. If they got no money, community doesn't matter. There's not enough money coming from a community that's going to keep up a project for that many years, right? 10 plus years. So it has to be the project and how they manage their sheets.
Well, we'll see. Now's the time to build. They got this window of opportunity where all projects kind of are heads down, but hopefully it works out for the community as a whole. It's always a tough position to be in, to try and come back after you've made a big splash of things. So we'll see what they do.
Right.
So I saw was that correct? Siggy was saying, Fancy Head, did you win a t-shirt? Was that for your sandbox entry?
Did you get it was during COPA. I just tweeted at Star Atlas.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Cool. Right on. Star Atlas swag. Didn't even know there was any out yet. Cool.
Yeah, I just have to tell them where I live now.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want it.
Send it to a PO box.
Yeah. They're trying to find you.
Is that
it? In your fancy head, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there's any questions on that the community watching has for us, for any one of us actually, and if not, are there any questions that our guests have, or any topics of concern? If you wanted to bring up anything for any reasons.
Questions, comments, feedback?
I think you wanted to say a few words, Lumina. You're on mute.
You're muted.
Yeah, I thought you're gonna go through the questions first, but all right. Well, I just wanted to say a few words. Well, thank you so much for having me again. And I know, and you know how I feel about the Rome Guild. So you guys are great. Have been fantastic for all these months, and I really hope that people in the community realize how much actually you have given to the community, even though maybe you weren't out there, but so many people learned so many things from you. I really enjoyed all of your discussions back in the day, today, and a continuous follower of yours for sure. And I also would like to say that I just discussed with our team. I would like to send you, Viticus, Ray, and Fancy, one of these caps that we did.
Cool.
Star Atlas. It's not gonna have your a custom name, but you know.
Right on.
So I'm gonna bring some extra with me once I get back to US, and then I'll ship it to you guys if that's okay with you.
Very
Absolutely.
cool. Much appreciated.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, no problem at all. And I would like to say a few things to the Turkish community in Turkish, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Floor is yours.
Bu yılki COPA etkinliğinde gördük ki Türk topluluğu göz ardı edilemeyecek kadar yetenekli ve güçlü bir topluluk. Bundan sonraki her etkinlikte biz elimizden geleni en iyisini yapmaya devam edeceğiz. Hangi gruptan olduğunuzun hiçbir önemi yok. Gelin birlikte evrene adımızı yazalım. Coexist hiçbir ön şart sunmadan herkese kapılarını her zaman açıyor ve açık. Biz bahanelere yaslanmıyoruz. Durmaksızın çalışıyoruz ve üretiyoruz. Emin olun birlikte çok daha güçlü olacağız. Bu haklı gururumuza ortak olursanız çok güzel olur. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. And the guys from MMA Gaming, best luck to you guys. Like I said, I've been following up with a lot of the guilds, but didn't have a chance to get an exposure from your guild. So I will definitely check you guys out too. Really appreciate it tonight. This was a great stream.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Lumina.
and again, thanks from all of us and to your community, and especially your brother, because what you pulled off of that was amazing and totally deserved from you guys. Just stellar. Well done.
Yeah, get comfortable
And
with
thank
each other.
you to
We'll
you
be seeing-
guys.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know you
No,
said.
but I'll just say to get it there. Thank you for you guys for listening and putting up with me for another 2 hours. And it's been a good show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a good experience.
Word on the street is you might be seeing more of these guys. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there could be some interesting announcements on the horizon. Just saying. Is that all of our news for today? Are we wrapping up here?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Make sure you
Awesome.
like, subscribe, do all those things and smash the stuff. And we are an ONI guild, and everyone here represents the ONI faction, just for those watching who aren't aware. So, yeah, always keep your eye out, and we do a weekly show here. So, on that note, farewell.
Awesome. We'll be back here same time, same place next week. Until then, stay safe out there and bear with us through this bear market. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Later.
Cheers, guys.
Atlas Miner, you were born to push the block in search of ore. Now it's time that you are gone. So farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, Mud and Oni too. Who's the sector same to you? The pirate bastards ran him through. So farewell, Atlas Miner. They promised you a diamond mine, but I'll be damned, it's hard to find. I hope there's justice for their crimes. So farewell, Atlas Miner. And farewell, friend, don't take it hard. Getting killed ain't all that bad. They'll treat you well in the repair yard. So farewell, Atlas Miner.